Hello. Before you get stuck into this episode of Zapped to the Past, we have another correction to make. In the awards episode, I said that Steve Erickson was on the Retro Fusion podcast. That's quite tricky, as far as we're aware, that doesn't exist. Steve is actually a presenter on the Retro Asylum podcast, which is an excellent podcast, and I can't actually believe I got that wrong. So yes, it's another 100 hours of Brian Bloodaxe for me to enjoy. With that out of the way, we hope you enjoy this next episode of Zapped to the Past. Hello and welcome to this episode of Zapped to the Past. My name is Adrian Mills and I am joined as ever by Graham Raddings. And if you don't know, and have not listened before, this is a podcast where we talk about games that were released for the Commodore 64, whilst also taking a brief look at what was going on in UK music, film and TV back in the 1980s. We are using the magazine Zap 64 as a monthly guide for the games to focus on, but we are in no way affiliated with Zap 64 itself. In this episode, we're going to be looking at the games reviewed in issue 9 of Zap 64, which was the wet and rather sunny month of January 1986. So Graham, tell us what we can expect in this episode.
Good lord, this is a spicy meatball. We go from full-on techno scavenger with Coronis Rift to cave diving with Hero of the Golden Talisman. Along the way, we hunt treasure with the Goonies, get into mischief with Skooldaze, get a bit stabby with Fighting Warrior, and get lost in a maze with Robin of the Wood. We also bleach our eyes at the Birdman bulge of Metabolis and develop a nervous twitch with the noisy Chimera.
Yeah, that's good. I'm looking forward to it already. So let's crack on. And our first game this month is another release from Lucasfilm Games. And that release is Coronis Rift. A big scorer in this issue of Zap. Got 96%, 1% off what they would class as a gold medal, I guess. But yeah, a big game. Another standout game probably from Lucasfilm after their last title, Rescue on Fractalis. And this is quite similar, I thought. It has nothing to do with the cover of this issue of Zap, so I don't really know if we need to mention that. It's their Christmas issue. They've called it the Christmas issue. It's January, the Christmas issue. There's the little computer people in Rockford and they're all by the fireside playing Commodore games. Yeah, that's what it is.
It's a bit creepy looking, the guy on the computer, I have to say.
What, the little computer guy?
Yeah, he's just a bit creepy.
He's got very rosy cheeks.
Looking. And an enormous nose and top lip problem. But no, I don't think he has eyebrows in his mouth. It's just weird. He's a bit weird looking, that guy.
Well, maybe he's just a bit freaked out by whatever the hell Rockford is kneeling behind him.
Why didn't I think of putting one TV on top of another TV when we played two-player games? Why didn't I do that? Anyway, it doesn't matter now.
Because it probably wouldn't have been safe. Those things weren't straight. They weren't flat. They generally had a curved
They're rounded.
Top, maybe. I don't know.
That is true.
Mine was a box. The Ferguson was a box, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
So that would have been...
Funny enough, that Christmas was the year I got my colour TV portable. That was the Christmas I got a colour TV. So it's ironic, really, that that's on the colour.
Yeah, it is. I'm not sure if I got mine that Christmas or the year before. It all blurs into one back then. It was some Christmas. Mm-hmm. I think it was the year before because I said we had Black Hawk by then. And I don't think we had Black Hawk in 1985.
A game known for its massive amounts of colour.
Green and blue.
Standard.
Lots of green.
Sea and earth.
Lots of green and blue. That's what we like. Anyway, none of this has anything to do with Coronis Rift. So Let's talk about Coronis Rift here, because obviously that's what we're here to talk about. So what is Coronis Rift? It's similar in tone. Well, okay, let's go back. Rescue on Fractalis, you visited a brown planet, and in Coronis Rift you visit a grey planet. A very grey planet. So this is it's brutally hard. It's really hard. Let's not beat around the bush here. This is a hard game, but it's I find it quite engrossing. I don't know what to call it really, like a planet explorer,
scavenger
hunt type thing. You are there's a whole sci-fi backstory to this about the ancients and how they tested these sort of technological marvels on this planet, and then they just left them there to rot, and then they wiped all knowledge of that planet from the space records. And then what?
The planet Coronis.
The planet Coronis, yeah. And everyone whispered about it in hushed and awed tones around, campfires on strange planets.
Have you heard of Coronis?
Yeah. You got any
Like they do, and everyone talks in hushed tones about mysterious planets.
Yeah.
I do that all the time.
Absolutely, sort of thing. Have you heard of 1XA24?
Otherwise known as P65.
We don't talk about that here. We don't talk about that here.
Shh. You're not speaking in hushed tones.
Oh, you're talking about Coronis. That's the point, actually. Is it Coronis or is it Coronis?
In this climate, it should not be Coronis.
That's true, actually.
Because it's a bit too close to home.
So we're going to call it Coronis. Coronis Rift.
It sounds better as Coronis Rift, doesn't it?
But maybe we go with Coronis Rift. Let's harden the different vowels. Anyway, Coronis Rift. So this is a planet that's been wiped from all the star charts, and you happen upon it, traveling through space as you do, and you can't, according to the blurb, you're looking for, and you go, oh, what's there's a planet there. You go down and you start to explore. So you start to understand that this may be the legendary Coronis Rift, planet Coronis, that is made up of essentially 20 rifts, essentially 20 areas. In these areas are space hulks, which you can scavenge for better part. You can then take them back to your main craft and then go back up to your main spaceship, which is hovering in low atmosphere. And you can essentially just see if they're worth a lot of money or whether they will improve your ship or your craft, your scouting craft for the planet. Because you're going to need them, because on the planet there are the Guardian Sentinels. These are spaceships of varying hostility and colour that zip around, that will at any point just turn up and stop you from leaving the planet, scavenging hulks, and so you have to deal with them by shooting them. That's the game. Go around, scavenge hulks, improve your craft, kill stuff, and then go through the 20 rifts. At the end of the 20 rifts, there is the Guardian, what's it called? The Guardian create a place. What's it called? I don't know. The Guardian Central, the Guardian Hub. I don't know. Fleet Street.
Yeah.
So, and essentially, that's where all these Guardian Sentinel spaceships come from. If you blow that up and you destroy that, you then have free access to the entire planet and riches and wildness beyond your craziest dreams. All right. That's the plot. That's the thing. That's what this is. So, like Rescue on Fractalis, this is driven by Lucasfilm's sort of fractal engine, where the graphics are created from a very procedural fractally generated engine. But in this case, it's actually solid. You can map this. This is not randomly sequencing stuff in front of you. This is recognizable landscapes that you can traverse and map for each rift. And so, yeah, it's hard. It's technically very impressive. I thought it really is impressive. It's a very smart 3D effect as you move through these planets. And what things I liked about it, it's all controlled via the joystick. There are no keys. This in the hands of lesser developers, there would be keys aplenty, but Lucasfilm do very, very cleverly sort of thing, keep the entire thing joystick driven with some nice and easy, and it's pretty easy to actually navigate around once you get used to it. You've got a crosshair. So the main screen is split when you're in game. You've got the view of the actual landscape in front of you. And at the bottom, you've got your modules. At the top, there's your radar scanner and health bar, or sort of shield strength screens and all this kind of stuff. You push the joystick to the top, push the crosshair to the top, and it'll start you moving forward. You pull it to the bottom, it'll stop you. If you're at the bottom of the screen, bottom of your viewpoint, and you press the fire button, that takes you down to your lower layer where all your modules are, and you can redo stuff. You can go to your ship and all that kind of thing. It works pretty well. In the confines of one stick, one button, I don't know how they could have done it much better, really. And it is quite good. But like I said, it's very hard because explanation of anything is minimal, to say the least. This is a game where you've got to try and figure out what the hell does what. When you pick these modules up from the hulks, each one has two symbols, and so I went and had a look at the manual, and the symbols relate to a thing on your ship, so radar, a gun turret, shields, power generator, that sort of thing. The other symbol, the other icon on these modules, relates to the type of, I think it's the type of Hulk or the type of sort of style of thing that sort of created it. So, and there's all kind of different ones, and not all of them are in the manual. Some of them are not even there, so you're kind of trying to figure out what the hell these are for. So you might have like the first thing you pick up is a shield a better shield that comes from the plant generators. It's like, what? what the hell is this? And so you've got to try and work out, is that better? Or do I just sell it? Do I go back up? Because when you go back up to your spaceship, your droid, Cytron or Cytronic, whatever his name is sat there waiting for you. And he's a very, very well animated droid who will punch some buttons and scan stuff and tell you how much it's worth and put it back in, and off you go again. You can pick and choose which modules. You've got 6 spaces at the bottom for which modules you want to include, and they improve your chances of taking on the Sentinels, because by Rift 2 they start to come in pairs, and it's quite tricky to shoot them because they don't go down in one shot. So you need better weaponry, better shields, because they will attack, and they're brutal. They're aggressive, to say the least. Did I enjoy this? I think I did. It's because it's unwelcoming, I think is the word. It feels like going down to an alien planet. It reminded me of the opening sequences sort of thing to something like No Man's Sky, where you're kind of on a planet and you've just got to explore and pick stuff up and try and work out what the hell's going on and improve your craft and all that kind of stuff. It's like kind of a precursor to those kind of scavenger planet kind of games. I don't know. What did you think? I've sort of waffled a bit there, so go on.
I thought it was clever. I thought it had a really nice kind of... It's a very clever sci-fi kind of scavenger hunt. I like the fact that it had a nice rooted science fiction basis. There's a lot of backstory to it, so you get that buy-in. It's got a kind of developed, a nicely envisaged and explained sci-fi world that the game lives in, with the Coronis Rift and the fact that it's this legendary place and there's all these things going on. And that whole world is nice. And the graphics, well, it's a very clever advance of the sort of LucasArts procedural generator. So that's quite good. Nice, clever leap. It's a bit of a technical leap as well. So it's got a lot going for it. The graphics are, when the robot graphics on, it's nice and big and bold, and you get plenty of information visually. It's very compelling in terms of its story. The main problem I have is the game itself is dull. It's just dull. It is. It's just kind of a grey, pick things up. It's a bit like being a digital womble, just wandering around, picking stuff up. Is it useful? Might be. I don't know. The game gives so little away that it's hard really to... You have to really, really remain focused. And don't get me wrong, it's dull because it keeps you at quite a distance from the actual game until you get further in, if you start to build up all of your various parts. But you've got a lot of part collecting to do, and because it doesn't give a lot away, you've just got to kind of... It felt a bit trial and error, which I suppose is kind of part of it. And I think had I had more time to sort of really engage and explore it, as I might have done when I was younger, I would have probably given it a bit more credit. This time round, however, because I quite liked it originally, I never played it a lot, but I had it. It was always in the disc box at the back, Coronis Rift. It was always kind of, I don't know if I want to put it on or not. So every possible way this game is clever, except the way that it engages you as a player, which I think is kind of a bit of a barrier, unless you're willing to really just go and let it go and persist and buy into that world. And that, I think, just takes more time than I had with it. So I found it dull this time, but unfortunately, it's also just... I don't think it's a game I repeatedly went back to. And even back then, I think it was, like I say, it was a back of the disc box. I had it for ages. Every now and again, I'd load it up. I'd get as far as that robot filtering through stuff on the old conveyor belt, and I'd be like, eh. So I think there's a great game. I think these kind of LucasArts games, they're just not quite there for me. I much prefer the next wave, really. When they go out of this procedural games and they go into your Maniac Mansion and your Zapped, and that's where I feel that the LucasArts games really speak to me. However, that's not to say that Coronis Rift and Fearsome and Fractalis and the other games that use this kind of procedural generation sort of thing aren't clever and down there to appeal to somebody, because I'm sure they do. I just found it a bit grey and boring, I'm afraid. I would recommend people go and try it for a length of time, though, longer than I did. I gave it as long as I could, but I think if I was being fair, I would have probably spent less time on some of the other games that for some reason I can't explain I'd be playing for ages, and more time with this one. Perhaps I would have benefited from that, but I felt it was a bit dull. I don't know. I
mean, that's fair enough. It is. I mean, it is a dull grey planet which sees you,
that's all good,
wandering around it sort of thing, and I don't think that's a wrong view to have. I think I can completely understand that.
Well, the way I kind of ratified it in my mind was you don't go into the film Alien expecting Star Wars. Mm-hmm. So you don't go in, because Alien is that landscape. It's grey, it's windy, it's the spaceship lands on the planet. They get out, they're exploring, they don't quite know what's going on, and it's all windy and rainy and horrible weather. And what it isn't is lots of multicolour spaceships flying around and Millennium Falcons. And Coronis Rift isn't like that. Coronis Rift is very much the alien world. Reminded me a bit of Mass Effect. I don't know why. I was getting real Mass Effect vibes off it.
Yeah, I suppose when you're in the Mako driving around on a planet. Yeah, I could see that.
I think I gave Mass Effect obviously it was much further down the line, but I gave Mass Effect a lot more time, and so I enjoyed it. And I think if I done that with Coronis Rift, I probably would have. It wouldn't have been quite as dull. I think that's maybe I've been a bit unfair. I think I think it's a great game that needs more time to read less dull. If it doesn't
engage with you, it doesn't engage with you. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and I can completely understand that viewpoint. Again, this is one of those games that's doing something a little bit different for the time. It's there's not a lot of these kind of, especially not to this technical level, when we consider other sort of 3D games that are around at this time that are doing it. They're doing anything like this, and there's like you said, sort of thing, there's a lot of sci-fi backstory to this. There's a lot of sort of thought, obviously, clearly gone into it, and technically it is nice sort of thing. But I think they're committed to a certain thing, and it either drags you in or it pushes you away. And I think, I hate to call it a Marmite game because I don't really like that term, but
no, it's not Marmite.
But I think this does almost like that. It's like you're either going to be dragged into it and be like, oh, I'm wholly into this and I love it, like a lot of these kind of games do, or you're just going to be like, it's just a bit too barren and dry. And I completely understand that. I did enjoy my time with it, and I didn't get very far because it's just very, very hard. But I felt myself wanting to get further into it and trying. The problem I had with it, one of the issues we had with it sort of thing, is that I don't mind a little bit of mystery. When you can't quite figure something out, but when there's so little in the way of interface. When you get him to analyse something, all he does, he just goes, it's this much power, this much efficiency, and it's worth this much. And so you're kind of like, well, but is that any good? And what does the other icon mean? And what does that? Yeah. And so trying to figure out anything just felt a bit, like you said, a bit trial and error. I think that's a good spot. It is, I would recommend it. I'd say go and play it.
Yeah.
But be prepared to
give it time.
Be prepared for this to keep you at a distance until and you'll either fall into it or you won't. And I don't think it's not like most games at the time, and I think that's probably why what I would say. I can see why Zapped loved it because
absolutely,
because I think it does deserve what for when it was reviewed and what they were looking at the time. I think I can completely understand that, but yeah, it is a game that feels purposefully oblique.
Yes.
Similar in a way, I suppose, something like Scarabaeus.
Yes. There are thematic, somewhat. I don't know, it's technical thematic similarities. I suppose the idea of it's quite a lonesome game, isn't it? It's a bit like Rescue and Fractalis is kind of the same. It's a bit kind of a bit lonely, bit of a lonely old game.
With Scarabaeus, you get glyphs, and you're wondering what the hell they mean. In this, you get icons, and wondering what the hell it is. Similar, and like you said, sort of nice 3D effect, technically very clever. And
very.
And like that, fully joystick driven pretty much. But yeah, Coronis Rift, it is good, and but it's a toughie to love. It's not.
Yes,
it's not.
Bit of tough love.
There you go. So Coronis Rift. That's our view on that. That's Zapped to the Past. Definitive opinion on that, which is kind of not very definitive.
Go play it.
That's just play it. It is, we would say go to play it. Yes, I think that's right.
Put a bright light on afterwards for a while. You might get SAD playing that game.
So much grey.
You're going to actually, it drains you with vitamin D playing it because it absorbs it into your Commodore 64.
Maybe that's why the little computer people on the cover has got a very red cheek.
It's got such a red, shiny nose.
Let's move on. Still getting weird. All right, that's Coronis Rift. Let's move on to our next game. Which is the 8-bit version of the film Goonies. Yeah, Goonies. We talked about this film-wise, what was it, a couple of issues back or a couple of episodes back? Wherever it was, it came out around Christmas time. Graham, what did you think of Goonies, the game?
So the film, it's the licensed game based on the film. So the film and the plot of the game are the same, essentially. So it's the quest for One-Eyed Willie's treasure. So you've got 8 levels in this game, and you've got 2 players on the screen on each level, and the idea is you've got to sort of get them both to the exit of the levels. The last one's slightly different because you got to get the treasure, but the idea is that you're working as the Goonies. There's different Goonies in each level, and you have to sort of solve the puzzle for each one, progressing your way through, and then eventually you get the treasure. And along the way, you're going to bump into various characters that are in the film, whether that's the woman, I can't remember her name, Mama, whatever her name is. Yeah,
is it the Fratellis?
The Fratellis, that's it. I know. The Fratellis. So you bump into them, and of course you bump into what's his name? Hey, you guys, that one I can't remember. Chung, not Chung, that's the kid in it. Sloth, yeah. So all of the. It's been a while since I watched the Goonies, and I'll tell you why. It's because it's not a film I really like. So I know that's sacrilege to people out there who like watching the Goonies, and there's nothing wrong with it. I've said it before when we talked about the film. I find it a bit babbly and a bit annoying, but the game. So graphically, it's made by Datasoft. I think it must have been ported to every single type of personal computer at the time, and I think the C64 was later down the line of its ports, because I actually played this originally on an Atari 800 XL, which took forever to load, and was actually a bit graphically and orally, dare I say, better than the Commodore 64 version. Weird, I know. But play it on the 64, so the graphics are kind of bi-colour browser. They're okay. Quite lively sprites. Quite okay. Nice dual player, the way you play both players to get to the end of each level. The music in it's okay, but it does great after a while, and I think after... Because some of the levels are quite tricky. There's one in particular I got stuck on for ages where you're in the house and the Mama Fratelli comes out and you've got to sneak around. The levels are quite well engineered and tricky. I think the problem is that once you've finished this, you're not going to really... It doesn't engage you like the film does. It just... It's a bit like playing a sort of... They've cherry-picked kind of the things that will make you remember the film, thrown it into a game with some of the logic, but it doesn't have the charm of the film because it's just kind of, it's just you running about with kind of blocky representations of the different characters. Still, all said and done, it's playable enough, it's fun, and it's not a bad franchise game as they go. But I think in the realms of development, I don't think it's the greatest development and the greatest looking game that they could have done based on the technology of the Commodore 64. It feels like a port from another machine thrown in. And I suspect that's very much what it is. But I enjoyed playing it. Weirdly, I was playing it for ages. I don't know why. I was kind of got into like a weird zombie mode. I don't know if it emits a signal, a bit like that pumpkin in Halloween 3, where it's like... and I was just sort of gooneying out. But, I don't know how much time had passed, but I'd got, I think, to level 3 before I realised that I'd been on it for what seemed like a million years. And, I think I'd gradually hunched my shoulder and started to get a bit, a bit slothed out. So, and I peeled myself out of the chair I was playing it in. I've been there that long. So there must be something to it, because normally games like that really do my head in. But I'm not a big fan of the Goonies, but I know you are a Goonie fan. You're an honorary Goonie, I believe.
I'm not a massive... I mean, I like the film. The film's fine. If it's on, if I catch it on ITV4, then I'm probably going to sit and watch it, because you do, don't you? It's just the Goonies. If it's on, and I know... We're recording this on the Thursday before the Easter weekend. I don't know if it's on over the Easter weekend. It seems like an Easter weekend film. If I'm flicking through the channels over this weekend and it's there, I'm probably going to sit and watch it, because you know what? It's an hour and a half, 2 hours of just harmless fun. And I can dig that, and sometimes that's kind of what you need at times. So yeah, I don't mind it. It's made by Datasoft, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So let's not beat around the bush. This is Datasoft doing Bruce Lee, Zorro, Conan. Mm-hmm.
They kind of look a bit samey.
Goonies. It's that single screen, small characters, multiple platforms.
Using the same engine?
We're just changing the graphics a bit. This is what that is. This is another. Obviously the shtick of this is, the two-character puzzle.
It's totally Bruce Lee, my God.
Yeah,
it really
did you not realise?
No, funny enough, I'd written the word Datasoft.
Yeah.
But then by that point, I'd gone into my slothy coma, so I don't know what. I don't know. Look back, I'm like, why did I even write that?
I think even closer is Conan.
Yeah. Oh,
I know Conan was awful, sort of
purple,
thing. Yeah, the purple thing.
Monstrosity.
It was awful. But so Conan, Zorro, this. It's those single screen, small characters, interactive ladders and stuff like that. You can just look at those games and you go, yeah, it's just them. I don't know. I know it'll come from Datasoft. So I'm not sure if they're programmed by the same people, but hey ho, you can see that lineage. So this is, does add the thing that it's two characters. My comments, it's all right. It's a decent, single screen. There's only 8 screens in there, which is maybe a bit limited, I think, because like you say, once you've solved those 8 and you know how to do them. Yeah, that's it. I suppose you say.
Where's the playable?
I suppose you say the same about most puzzlers, but most puzzlers have more than 8 puzzles, which is the thing. I thought the graphics were very, very C64. They looked. They just looked like this. If you showed me that screen, I go, oh, that could be more C64 if it tried.
Yeah, I think it's their colour choice. They really hammer the hell out that 16 colour palette. They get the most out of those basic colours. There's no FLI graphs for them. They're not mixing or blending those colours. They're not doing anything fancy. It's got 16 colours. Damn it, we're using any of them. That's it. And one of those colours is white. One of those colours is black. So technically, it's only 14 colours.
And 7 of them are brown.
Yes, the multi-layers of the Commodore brown.
I hated the music. My note here is the music is a twee thing of drill-like proportions that drives through your mind like a screwdriver.
Yes, I have the same feeling when I listen to anything by Wet Wet Wet, strangely enough. Not that I do that very often.
Oh, angel eyes.
It's the sweet little Mr. You know, if he couldn't look any more smug in that video if he tried. He's the smuggest man on earth. I guess it's because he's a good-looking guy.
Marty Pello.
Yeah, Marty Pello. Yeah, you see, he's very close to Pello and Boss. And that's, as we all know, is a
That'd be dead weird if he just turned around sort of thing and he's got like real edges.
He does.
Hello.
He's always face on.
I'm Marty Pello and Boss.
If he lays in bed, he just merges with it and he just his edges becomes like an indented outline. Anyway, that's a big digression from where you were at.
Where was I, sort of thing? I found, with this being a puzzler sort of thing, having only 5 lives was a pain in the ass because it's easy to die, and especially on some of the later screens.
Very.
And just being shoved back to the beginning. It's like, oh, God, each just give... But I can, back in the day, they probably did it because longevity to make it sort of harder and things like that. I found it weird and sort of sometimes hard to really understand what I was supposed to interact with on the screen because nothing stood out at times. Like it took me ages to realise on the first screen that I had to jump and push the water thing over to put the fire out.
Yep. Oh,
I was just wondering. I figured I had to go up, push the chair, go up, turn the money printer on, and Mama Fratelli would come out to catch the money.
Come out, catch
then
the money.
Then the other one could run down to the bottom, and then I was like just running around for ages, wondering, am I supposed to go through the door? And it was only by luck when I was just jumping that I knocked the water over, and it's like, okay. And then it's a bit, it's all right. I mean, it's okay. It's just, it's just a bit of an evolution from, Conan, Zorro, Bruce Lee in a sort of bit more of a single screen puzzly, and as you said, it's not a bad, as film conversions go, this is quite an okay one because Goonies, they are solving puzzles and working out traps and all those kind of things. And so,
collecting treasure.
There is that to it, and it does feel all right. But would I go back to it? Probably not.
Nah.
Yeah.
And I can't be alone in thinking that when everyone does a bicolor medium res typeface on a Commodore 64 game, I find them very hard to read. So that writing that's on the screen in the game's borderline, eye-watering. It's so hard. So, but they use really weird colour schemes, brown and red and all this kind of thing.
I'm
like,
purple and green of Conan, isn't it? It's like, I'm wondering, I don't know what's going on back there at Datasoft, but yeah.
Colourblind. I'm suspecting colourblindness.
Quite possibly. It's quite possible. You don't know.
Scotopically sensitive game designers beware. Don't play that game. You're going to end up with a real nauseating headache.
Yeah, quite possibly. But yeah, it's not terrible. We're going to play worse today.
We are indeed.
So
yes.
For your 8 screens, this is probably going to challenge you, and solving the puzzles does give you that. There is moments of enjoyment and clarity, and when you go, I know how to do that. But it's okay. It's all right. I can't get angry at this because it's a functional, decent little puzzler. But that's pretty much all it is, really.
Well, yeah, and also you're an honorary Goonie. You're not allowed to get mad at this game.
I don't know. I give it 3 truffle chuffles.
I'd give it a kick in the Goonies if it keeps that music so drilly.
Oh, that music! Jesus Christ!
I don't remember that music in the film because I'm pretty sure I would have screamed and run out the cinema.
Yeah, I think everyone would have.
But there you go.
There'd have been murder committed.
The music in the film's actually really good. It's a really good score for Goonies.
It is, yeah.
There's that amazing sequence where the One-Eyed Willie's pirate ship comes out towards the end and. There's that great bit of music, when Sloth is swinging in on the rope and doing all of that.
Yes.
I probably just ruined the ending for everybody, but there you go.
I think,
might be a pirate ship in it.
35 years. I think the statute of limitations on spoilers.
That, but you're an honorary Goonie. You're not allowed to say that. Keep telling you.
I can.
You're one with the Goonies.
Stop. I'm not.
You see, that's what a Goonie would say.
I'm really not.
Anyway,
look, if anything, I'm a Rat fan. We've already said this.
Rat fans and Goonies, they had a war, didn't they? It lasted all of 12
Absolutely.
hours.
We went down to Brighton one day.
It was like Quadrophenia, but with Rat fans and Goonie fans. We are the Goonies, we are the Goonies, we are the Goonies.
Between the Goonies and the Rat fans.
Rat fans, attack!
Change!
He'd be stood in court going, bloody Rat fans!
Hey, you guys, charge!
Rat fans, give me some more of them blue dreamers.
Let's move on. Anyway, Jesus Christ.
God, that got weird.
Goonies, it's all right.
God, that got weird.
As ever. Right, let's move on. Goonies, yeah, it's all right. 8 screens of puzzlings. There you go.
Puzzlings.
Puzzlings. Yeah.
Little puzzlings.
I know we've gone into the Dark Crystal.
Puzzled you would be.
No, Yoda's not in Dark Crystal.
You know what? I'm just co-opting things in. That's what they did at this time in 1986. Games could co-op characters from everywhere.
They could. Anyway, let's move on. Please. To our next game. Our next game is... Oh, yeah, this is a disappointment.
Yes.
Fighting Warrior. Fighting Warrior is our next game. So, Fighting Warrior. First thing that greets you with Fighting Warrior. What is Fighting Warrior? Fighting Warrior is the pseudo-sequel to Exploding Should Have Been a Gold Medal Fist. So...
Is it really? Is it classed as kind of
I think so. It's
side qual
It's the
kind of
next
thing?
one along from them. It's Beam Software. It's their next game. It's,
Is it Melbourne House as well?
Yes.
You gads.
Yes, definitely. I'm pretty sure it is.
No, I think I seem to remember it being, and that's why everyone kind of got giddy about it before they played it.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the problem. Developed by... Oh, no, it was Chrome Studios. Chrome Studios Melbourne, which I think is Beam anyway, I think. It's from them. It's the same stuff. The problem is, right, so Fighting Warrior, was touted as some kind of sequel to Way the Exploding Fist. It has a similar kind of graphical style, big, chunky, quite well animated sprites. But in this game, you play the titular fighting warrior, who is depicted on the title screen is very grey. He needs some sun, which is weird considering he's set in Egypt. As we say, the Commodore 64 has plenty of colours to adequately portray someone with a tan.
Yeah, and not only that, they've gone for the kind of Egyptian warrior look that you would have worn if you did a school play when you was back in the 80s, where you just put a tea towel on your head to play anyone from the Middle East and put a belt around your head.
Yes, it's another one of those so we can look at. It's not the best.
And it's a blue and white. They weren't known for wearing blue and white stripes. The Egyptians, they tended to not do that kind of thing.
I did, no. But yeah.
Well, blue isn't a colour you're going to get hold of easily in Egypt.
No, probably not. You saw well.
But, you know what? I'm not an expert.
No, but he's very grey in this title screen. So you play the titular fighting warrior, and you'd think Exploding Fist people, Melbourne House, title like Fighting Warrior, same similar kind of sprites. You're in for a good time here. You would be sadly mistaken.
Yep.
My first comment on this is so boring. It's really, really dull. You walk along and you fight with 3 moves. Remember, Exploding Fist had 16 different moves, whatever. 3 moves is just, you can hit high, you can jab to the middle, or you can hit low. That's it. That's your thing. You basically get a series of Egyptian-style creatures that walk towards you, some of which are similar to you, but may have an animal-type head. There are some dogs that may attack, and there are like a winged dragon-y type thing that may attack. But essentially, they all do the same thing. You've got 3 attacks. They'll block. They'll jump. You can duck. To be fair, these are well-animated, but that's it. And the health bars are massive.
Yes, they take forever.
And it just takes forever to destroy anything. And once you kill them, once you do actually destroy them, you're presented with a pot. Missing the pot takes your health off. What they're thinking? What? Because you have to be in the exact right place to hit the pot.
Yep. Don't do pot, kids.
Don't. And it's like, you don't lose health if you miss the toilet when you're having a pee. That's not something that happens. And similarly, if you swing and miss and don't hit a pot, you shouldn't lose health. But you do. If you do hit the pot, then different things can happen. It can generate more monsters. It can open up a triangular doorway into a different location, which is only different in the fact that it has a different background, but it has the same bloody creatures walking towards you and fighting. Oh, God. What were they thinking? It's so dull. And it just takes so long to beat any of them. Oh, God. And do you know the problem is here? Is that this should have told us what to expect with Fist 2.
Yes, it is a warning
It is,
siren,
it really is. This
it?
is a shot across the bows going, you think Fist 2 is going to be good? Look at Fighting Warrior.
Yeah, you wait. Yeah. You wait till you see those moonwalking karatekas.
Moonwalking scrolling. Awfulness. I don't know, did you like this? Did you get on with it, or did...
No. Do you know what? I don't know why. The music is like an earworm, isn't it? For some reason, I can remember it from being back then. So there must be something real earwormy about it. Because
I did find it grated pretty quickly. though.
It does. So my initial thought about this was that it was like the crappiest version of Karateka I'd ever played.
Yeah.
Because it was just like Karateka. You're walking along. The story is the same. Pharaoh's captured a princess and imprisoned her in the temple, and you've got to fight and get her.
Yep.
By walking right and continuously fighting one thing after another, so presumably you end up at the temple. Mm-hmm. And now, at least Karateka had an end, because I have a feeling this just goes on forever and ever and ever and ever. I don't think there's an end to it at all. I was playing it for a long time again. I don't know why. I think
either.
that music is kind of hypnotic. But in the end, my conclusion was I put a weird multicolored block Karateka style stab 'em up, because I just went around sort of doing that really weird belly stab that he does, which is kind of a thrusty belly stab. It's the strangest fighting moves I've ever seen. It kind of looked Egyptian, I suppose, is the best thing I could say about it. But everything else was a flat disaster. I don't know how you get it wrong. Even if you just made Way the Exploding Fist and put Egyptian characters and did 16 moves for those Egyptian characters, that would have been better than this. I don't know why they went to these lengths and trying to add a narrative. I have a feeling somewhere that there is someone who played Karateka and there is a bit of borrowing going on here. Because it does feel, if it is thematically the same. But like you say, if the music doesn't hypnotise you like it did me, then it's just going to bore its way into your soul. And you are going to just end up, like you say, hitting them little pots is a real challenge. And even when you do, there's no real payoff. You either end up fighting more things or you end up going through a doorway to fight more things. Either way, it's just boring and endless. It just felt like it was going on forever. I'm pretty sure there's no end to that.
I don't think there is either.
I'll have to check on YouTube and check out, see if there's a long play, but the video might be 300 years long.
Don't.
And it's probably still playing it. 30 years it's just been playing it still to this day, going, it won't let me leave. I don't know. Zap gave it 45%. I think that's generous for this garbage, but there you go.
Yeah, I this really did nothing for me. It was just coming from on the back of Exploding Fist, it looking like that, thinking this is going to be something similar. Just no. I tell you what. There's the better version of this that comes out somewhere down the line, sort of thing, and a couple of years' time is Usagi Yojimbo. That does this right.
Yeah,
that's how to do a walking, scrolling 2D fighting game.
Yeah, fighting game. Yeah, you don't have to fight every single thing that comes in front of you. That's always a bonus.
Yeah, and for them to have the health bars of God.
I was wishing there was a run in this game, just to run. I just wanted to run. Just that slow ploddy
walk and the slow scrolling.
Yeah, it's just so ploddy and no.
Yeah.
Fighting Warrior, you will be fighting a lot. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's not great. Don't play Fighting Warrior. It's a disappointment. Huge disappointment.
No, don't. No, just wait for something better.
Yeah, like the number 16 bus.
Yeah.
I had more enjoyable times sat on the number 16 bus heading to town than I did playing Fighting Warrior.
Just read a book about Egypt. Because that actually features more Egyptian things in it than this game does anyway.
That's true.
So yes, there's a little bit of Egyptian iconography, but no. Aside from the fact that in the background you've got the odd pharaoh thing and a tomb and the odd pyramid, it could have it's just dull. It's just dull. No. And like you say, actually, we saw the warning signs about Fist 2 here, really, didn't we?
We did, yeah. Shiting Warrior.
We did.
That's what I'll call it.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah, very much so,
right.
Yes.
Let's move on from that travesty. To our next one. Maybe you like this. I don't know. This is a weird one. What is our next game? Our next game is, it's a bit of a hark to the past. This is a Spectrum conversion, a Spectrum classic. One would say this is one would say liked in the Spectrum world. This is Skooldaze. Graham, did you enjoy your time back at school?
So Skooldaze, you are Eric the schoolboy, I believe. Mm-hmm. And the idea of the game is you've got to get your report card from the staff room. I think it's a safe. I can't remember. You've got to get it from the staff room anyway. To do that, you've got to accomplish, do some things around the school. There's other characters in the game. There's 3 or 4 teachers in it. I can't remember all the names.
There's 3 teachers and a head teacher, and each one of them has one of the thingies for the code.
That's right. There's Mr. Whacker, Mr. Crit. I can't remember all the names anyway. And then you've got other characters as well. You've got, I want to say, Angel Face. I'm pretty sure there's one called Einstein. I can't remember all the names. Anyway, you've got players that you have, and you can think one of the key things you can actually change. You could name them if you wanted to. Yeah. You could name them. So you could put your mates in there. Hey, imagine all the fun of that. All your mates, Bezzy, Kezzy, Wezzy, and Leslie are all.
What mates did you have?
With you.
I don't remember you hanging around with anyone called Bezzy and Kezzy.
I never played. I never actually. I was just coming to. I never actually played this game at the time. Any format, so this was my first encounter with it. So you can go around, and if you get caught and do those things, you accumulate. I think is it lines, or is it you're punished anyway? And your game, if you get too many of those, you get kicked out of school. So the idea is that you've got to obviously do all that, and get the various stuff from the school teachers, and that gets you to the safe, and then you can get your report, and everything's tickety-boo. So I have to say, right from the get-go, I don't like these kind of Spectrum conversions on the Commodore 64. And I don't like them for a couple of reasons. One, because this one felt like a lazy port to me. It just felt like the graphics had just been lifted straight from a Spectrum and thrown into a Commodore 64. The Commodore 64 could do better than this. Mm-hmm. So the scrolling on it was kind of horrible. The visuals were kind of tiny and scrappy and high res, and it was all yellow and black and a bit bitty and a bit just not what I expect when I play Commodore 64 games. With a machine that's got another 8 colours and a lot more resolution, and registers on its chips, on its VIC graphic chip, to do all sorts of crazy scrolling and all that stuff. So this just felt like it was a kind of a poorish port of that game, which meant that I think that while the charm of the game might have been retained, the actual functional parts of the game looked a bit horrible on a Commodore 64, and I found that a bit off-putting, especially the scrolling when you went to the next screens and it juddered around a lot. So it just felt clumsy. So it might have been fun, but the kind of buggy, jerky quality of the graphics and the fact that it just felt like I was playing a poor Spectrum game on a Commodore 64 put me off. So I didn't get much further off after it. I played it for a while, but I couldn't quite sort of get into it because of it. Just, I just felt a bit off-putting. Mm-hmm. If you compare this to some of the other games that we play for this episode in terms of the colour graphics, the ones that do flex the strength of the Commodore 64, this just looks a bit naff. Play it on a Spectrum if you're going to play it, I think would be my bet.
Yeah. I mean, I've put... My first comment is back to the Spectrum with you. It's a direct port of a clever game. Don't get me wrong. So this is a clever game. I can see why people liked it. I mean, if coming out a year previous, on the Spectrum sort of thing, there's probably I can see why this made quite the impact it did, and it's still well known to this day. The problem is on the C64, there's like the slowdown and the dated feel just don't work here. But the scrolling is atrocious, and as you rightly pointed out, none of the strengths of the C64 are in evidence here. Probably did work well on the Spectrum. It doesn't mean it just needs bringing across to the C64 wholesale. This is like, no. Turn a nog, turn it off. School don't. Yeah. So again, this is technically clever and ambitious, but to me, the game is just a bit dull and past its prime here. It just doesn't feel... I imagine that there's quite a lot going on under the hood sort of thing, but is it fun to play? Nah. Not at this point in time, I don't think. Not for me, not when I went back to it. No. I think I played it on the Spectrum somewhere. Someone had it at some point, but I don't really remember much of it. And I kind of... This is one of those games I know of rather than know. Yeah. And so this was really my first time coming to it, and... Yeah, I think this it's not a particularly great port, and how the hell this got 78%, I'll never know.
That baffled me, I have to say, when I looked and saw that, and I read the review, and like I said, I think you can fall in love with the idea, because the game idea and the game itself and the stuff that happens in the game is great. This is just not visually very nice. Yeah. So it doesn't feel very nice on a 64, but if you've played the Spectrum version and you've got that in your mind, then you're probably going, oh yeah, there's some really cool little things that can happen here and there, but... It was lost on me. I never really played it originally, so to come to it quite fresh, I just found it. And that scrolling did my head in. I'm sorry, but it did. I just think, you know what? We was only one episode ago saying how Chris Butler had amazed us with his scrolling on Z. Yeah. And then you come to this where, it looks like, you're going to have a seizure trying to wait for it. And I'm like, and it's just horrible. I'm like, no. Then the thing is, the C64 can do full screen scrolling. I mean, there's games out there that do it. So it's not, and if you want to do that thing on the 64, it can. It's not like it can't. So anyway, don't know. Just lazy porting, I think.
I think so, yeah. It's not something I want to spend much time talking about. Skooldaze, if you want to go play Skooldaze, go play it on the Spectrum. It's probably better, and it's probably more suited to that machine.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend that.
It's a Spectrum game. And we're not knocking it, and we're not knocking the technical chops of it on the Spectrum or anything. It just don't work here. No. So there you go, Skooldaze. That's it. There's your games for this first section. Coronis Rift. So, you might like it. Goonies. Yeah, it's alright. Fighting Warrior. Skooldaze. That's my review in sounds. Join us after this short break where we will be talking about musical delights for January 1986. So I had hat tip to our sponsor for this episode, who's davidhearnwriter.com, where you can find audiobooks for just a few quid and books for even less. Dave's feature book this week is The Case of the Notorious Roboticist, where Moros must try and solve a murder where the prime suspect is an artificial intelligence programmer who designs nasty robots. The story also features a robot named Benson trying to escape from Targ. The audiobook is available at Google Play, Apple Books, Audible, and so on. Visit David Hearn Writer, that's David Hearn, spelled Hearne, writer, as you would expect, all one word, davidhearnwriter.com, to find out more. Welcome back to our look at what was going on in the world of music in January 1986. Obviously, going into the new year, our good friend Shakin' Stevens was at number one, but he didn't stay there. He was only there until other bands came along and booted him off. So our number one singles in this month, where there's two bands, one you don't like and one we both like, I think. So we've got West End Girls by the Pet Shop Boys comes in. We mentioned this episodes back that it came in. It's worked its way up the charts and it's now at number one. It stayed at number one for 2 weeks. First 2 weeks of January 1986, first 2 weeks of 1986 was West End Girls Pet Shop Boys, where it was then replaced. Another track we've mentioned has worked its way up the charts, but it's The Sun Always Shines on TV by Aha. They're quite a pair of, they're very January songs, I think.
Yeah, I mean, especially West End Girls, isn't it? It's just kind of,
grey. January lasts all year. It seems to.
Yeah, longest month of the year.
The longest month of the year for every reason.
Yeah.
And The Sun Always Shines on TV is, pretty bleak.
It is bleak.
So it's a bleak old song, Sun Always Shines on TV. It's what you get when you come from a country where, half the year is dark.
Well, the interesting thing was, I was watching a TV show about that, in about 1986, 85 kind of pop music and stuff. And
was that Top of the Pops?
Yeah, there was an interview with
I was watching.
Aha, the guy from Aha. And they said they're kind of trapped into the teen band. Because they weren't really like that, and they just kind of got trapped into it. And they were kind of like, oh well, we'll go with it.
Did it say that they were previously they were like a Swedish prog band?
Yeah, and they just weren't making
Norwegian,
it.
Sorry, Norwegian, Swedish, Norwegian.
They weren't making it in
band,
Norway, so
Norwegian.
they came to London.
Yeah.
And sort of just got picked up by the whole pop thing. So they became kind of pop stars, and they weren't really wanting to be pop stars. They were kind of, you know what? Sometimes you just deal with the hand you dealt.
And I don't know what you expect if you write Take On Me.
Yeah, no, but it was the video that really did that for them, and then after that it just took off for them. They weren't getting anywhere until that video came about, and that was the most money that Warner's had spent on a music video at any point to that date. Was $100,000, and that was the most money that had ever been spent on a music video for Aha, because they were determined to make them into something, and of course it worked.
It did work. Did work well. So weird number one albums. Now That's What I Call Music 6 stays in there.
Of course it does.
For another week. And then Brothers in Arms comes back.
Why is that
Dire
coming back?
Straits. Give me a moment. Give me a moment, caller.
Right.
Bear with me one moment, sir. And
I'm sensing a single got
to
released.
Yeah. I'll get to that. New releases of note on the 6th of January was Walk of Life by Dire Straits. Came in straight at number 30, so I'm imagining people heard that and went, you know what, there's quite some number of singles on this that I'm getting into, so let's go buy the album.
Yeah, and it's kind of a harmless dinga, 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 it's kind of rockabilly, rock and rolly, innit?
Walk of Life.
With the video with all of the NFL players ramming into each other and smashing each other on the American football field.
Is that the video, is it?
Yeah. It's like watching all the quarterbacks getting sacked by the linebackers and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, it's a catchy old tune. One of the ones of Dire Straits that I don't mind something, but it's so you could see that people with a bit of Christmas money probably thinking, I should really buy that. Some songs on that.
Yeah.
Maybe Dire Straits didn't give their tracks to Now That's What I Call Music. Maybe they held out.
Yeah, they're not
maybe they were the direct line of music of bands, because Direct Line don't appear on Confused.com, do they?
No, they don't.
They don't give them so Dire Straits Direct Line. Both begin with D.
Be. You're not allowed. We're not allowed on that. You're not putting any of our tracks on your stupid compilation albums.
You're not. So that's probably why. There you go. 13th of January, Life's What You Make It by Talk Talk.
I don't know a lot about Talk Talk.
I don't know a lot about him, but I do like that song.
I don't even know how does it go?
I just like his voice. Do you want me to do it?
Well,
I could do it.
Yes.
Life's what you make it. He's got that kind of voice.
I'm not any the wiser. I might have to. I'll YouTube that.
Boom, boom, boom. It's got that sort of big
sounded
sort
like
of
Berlin.
boom,
You did an amazing Berlin synth noise there.
Boom, 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 boom.
That's
what you make it.
I thought you were doing "Take My Breath Away" by Berlin. Boom, boom.
Maybe I was.
Boom, boom, boom.
Things get confused in my head after all this time. Anyway, Life's What You Make It is a good track. I came in at number 41. A particular favourite of yours, Leader of the Pack from Twisted Sister.
Is that the Leader of the Pack? That's why I fell for the Leader of the Pack, but it's Twisted.
I reckon so.
I don't like Twisted Sister at all.
I like saying you like all these bands on here, sort of thing, being in charge. I've given you the most worst taste in music ever. People must be listening to this going, God, his taste in music is terrible.
He likes Twisted Sister. I really don't. I really don't like them at all.
Good old D. Schneider.
Strange enough, that's not the Twisted Sister track I actually know of. So that means that now I know of two. We're not going to take it. Yeah, it's the one I know of. And that's only because the singer looked like a friend of ours' mum. So
I hope he's listening.
I'm sure he will. You'll know who we mean.
He will, yeah. Oh,
bless her.
God bless him. Then we had number 66. I put the things I like again. I'm just going to keep mentioning it. Small Blue Thing from Suzanne Vega. Probably went nowhere because it's an odd track.
Never heard of that one.
Now, I thought this was earlier, but maybe it wasn't. You're a bit more up on these kind of things than I am. Rapper's Delight, Sugar Hill Gang, number 78.
Well, it could easily be a re-release.
In the charts where I look at them, it does actually say whether it's a re-release or a new entry, and this said new entry.
Because you couldn't buy a lot of it in the UK at the time. It was really difficult to get hold of rap in the UK around this time. Later down the line, as it became more popular, that changed, especially towards the end of the 80s. But at this point, you went to your record shops, they were full of Twisted Sister and Dire Straits, and now that's what I call music. If you went in and said, have you got a copy of the Sugar Hill Gang's Rapper's Delight, you just get a blank look and go, is that Bobby Vinton? So you couldn't get hold of it. So it was still, because it's still quite underground, even in the US at this point. So in the UK, it's not like the internet now where someone releases a rap track and it can be SoundClouded to you in 2 seconds. There's a whole export of stuff that was, it wasn't getting picked up on the big labels because they were frightened to death of rap for many different reasons, the least of which because of its cultural implications and what that might mean to the MTV generation and all the whole thing. There's an excellent documentary on all of that was on Sky Arts, I think, some time ago. Go and watch that. I can't remember what it's called now. Probably something to do with rap. However, it is a great track, and I think it does go higher in the UK chart. It's a good entry point for that if you think about it, really. I
think so, yeah. I mean, it just stuck out to me when I was looking through them. So thank you, but I do not. Rap is not my forte. I know very, very little about it, so I don't know if it's. I could have gone researched it. But I thought I'd wait and see if you knew. It's just, I just thought it for some reason because is Rapper's Delight. Am I right in thinking Rapper's Delight is credited as the first rap track apart from the Blondie one? Is it one of them? Yeah,
it's one of those. It's up there with.
It's Rapture by Blondie. You could class that, I suppose. It's got a rap in it of sorts. It's not what you'd call great. It's not a rap song,
rapping,
obviously.
But these songs are the pioneering songs that break through. I think that's the important part. There's a whole lot of rap being done, but these are the ones that kind of penetrated into more mainstream. They were just being picked up by not bigger labels, but labels with enough clout to be able to get them exported out of the country, I think. And so Sugar Hill Gang is not something that we weren't going to see that necessarily on Top of the Pops at this point, but as they get further in, there was a demand for people to start hearing and seeing this stuff. But you're right. There's Grandmaster Flash and a couple of others that with the Message and stuff like that, they are those pioneers. It always makes, because you're right in a way, everyone forgets about Rapture by Blondie. But that's because it is not her finest moment in that song.
Oh, no. So it's not a great song. No, it's really not.
But the video actually features a really famous sort of rapper artiste in there. So, because she was kind of nosying around with that kind of sort of set, wasn't she, at the time? The group were. So, anyway. I just thought I'd stick it in because I thought it was quite interesting.
It
is an interesting thing.
I thought it was a bit earlier, but, mid-80s, I suppose. And I suppose you are right we could be told sort of thing. There's a very good podcast, which I'll recommend if people don't listen to it, called Pop Collaborate and Listen, which is done by a couple of friends of ours. And it's a very good podcast, and they're very, very much into their rap. They could probably, if they are listening to this, probably not, because I don't think they're interested in C64 games, but I might ask them. They could probably set me right on whether that is correct, but I don't know. It's not my thing, but I thought it was worth the mention. As was the next one, because on the same day, Chain Reaction by Diana Ross went in at number 90. Is this, and I didn't listen to it, but I know Chain Reaction by Diana Ross. Is this the Bee Gees version? Is this that one?
Yes, it is.
Is this the Bee Gees version, or did she do another version that then got singed up by the Bee Gees?
No, it's the version with the Bee Gees singing in the background. So they sing on it.
Dun, dun,
Yeah, you can tell it's the Bee Gees.
Dun.
You can tell if you think about that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And think about the way the Bee Gees construct their music. It's if you think of the Dionne Warwick tracks that they wrote, you think of because they wrote tons of songs. I mean, I actually quite like the Bee Gees for all sorts of different reasons, not necessarily for this song.
So do I.
But they have a style of writing, and Chain Reaction isn't. I don't think Chain Reaction their song that they wrote, or is it one that they've covered? I don't know.
No, I think it is actually one of theirs. Yeah. I think, but I could be wrong. It
sounds like it. No, like you say, if not, it certainly sounds like it. But they certainly made it their own because it's got that Bee Gees kind of vibe. You know, and it's got you can't miss their falsetto singing and everything that's on it. You can't miss them. They're there. They're on it. You know.
Yeah. Want the video where she does all the different eras of pop?
Yes,
Diana
that's
Ross
correct.
In the video,
yeah.
she's 60s, 70s, like a disco diva. She's like on the 60s in like one of those pop.
Yeah, because if you think of the way she sings it,
TV shows,
she's got that sort of soft voice, doesn't she? And if you think about that. Take her voice out and put Barry Gibb's voice in. He could have almost sang it himself in that way. He almost does.
Now I'm thinking of Barry Gibb in that tight dress she wears, and I've gone down a horrible route of what have you done to me?
He would be in the middle of a chain reaction if he was wearing that. It'd be a dangerous situation.
With his hair in those braids.
I can't think of the Bee Gees without thinking of Kenny Everett in the 80s. When he did that sketch, when he always did the Bee Gees, didn't he? He did all three of them. And he said, how would you describe your enormous teeth? And they said, mass of two sets. But we'll put the YouTube, it's on YouTube. We'll put
no.
But yes. So James, but I'm surprised it got in at 90. I thought it would have been higher with it being the pedigree of Diana Ross.
That's what I wondered. I wonder whether this was a first entry or whether this was not whether they remixed it to a later. I'm not sure.
It's a re-entry for Diana Ross would have been an uncomfortable thing to say on Top of the Pops, wouldn't it?
19th of January by the Bee Gees, all three of them. 19th of January.
3G.
Better than 5G, I guess.
Oh my gosh.
Right, let's move on quickly.
That would be a chain reaction. Anyway.
19th of January, when the going gets tough. The tough get going from Billy Ocean.
In
at number 28, we will see that. I think that gets to number 1, doesn't it? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, pretty certain it does.
That being very big.
It was huge.
Good song. I like that song. And similarly, same day, just 3 places down. Number 31, Living in America from James Brown.
Classic.
It is a classic. So, a couple of film tracks getting released. They're starting to see. I think, I don't know when this became a thing, but I think,
it's
it'd be interesting to sort of see big songs for a big film.
Well, just predating this, because we've had a couple, haven't we? Flashdance is around. Is it before this? So, because Flashdance had a big soundtrack. So there's a few.
Fame as well.
Yeah.
But to be fair, they're about music.
Yeah, I think somewhere along the line, this idea of
similarly with Footloose as well.
Yes. Did you know? I didn't realise that there was a song.
And they all begin with F. What is it with F?
It's just F films. I don't know. There is that thing though, isn't there, where films and the soundtracks for them became quite ubiquitous, and you're starting with that, but you think like Top Gun and things like that, and you can see where it's going to go.
Yeah, you didn't get like 1976, and at number 6 is the theme from Jaws.
No, or the a cappella version of the Predator theme.
Imagine the theme from Jaws on Top of the Pops. How would they have done that?
It would have just been one guy with a cello miming.
Or Pan's People. Pan's People just going around really slowly.
They could have done that. Dun 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 dun. Their shoulders would have been going, wouldn't they? Dun 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 dun. I don't know.
In at number 7, in at number 7 is the 5 notes from Close Encounters.
Well, do you know, on Top of the Pops back then, just as an interesting little clip if they had have done that, then the BBC orchestra were obliged to play everything that was orchestral on Top of the Pops up until about 1979, 1980. So if you had an orchestra as your backing track on your song, the BBC orchestra, the BBC sort of pop orchestra, had to play it live in the studio, and you had to mime to it or sing to it. So it would have been them playing Jaws. That would have been weird. So it would have been like, it wouldn't have been John Williams' version. It'd have been like it's like a funked out version. It could have been a bit Jeff Lovey. There's no wrong with that.
Jeff Love does Jaws.
Oh yeah, imagine that. It would have been dun anyway.
This shark's got funk. It's like with Jabba Jaws.
You're going to need a bigger bass.
Oh, yeah. Oh no, that would be ace. Anyway, so yes, film songs are getting there. I don't know if you're a fan of. I don't know if you were a fan of these. Following week, 26th of January. The only one I could find of any note was "Rise" by Public Image Limited.
I
don't
do
know
not
this song
like
at
them.
all. No, I was never a big fan. I just thought I'd throw it in just to see if you were.
I don't like
whether
the
you've come
way
to appreciate them over time.
the lead singer, what's his name? It's him at the Sex Pistols,
John Lydon,
isn't it?
isn't it?
Yeah, John Lydon.
Yeah,
I cannot stand the way he sings in Public Image Limited. I'm sorry, but I don't. The only song I actually like by them is the one where he's actually just a sample, which is Open Up, I think, and that's them and somebody else. So, nope.
Just to round off again with our film stuff, there was barely any new stuff out. And this is, everything's been released pre-Christmas, I guess. I imagine there's not much new albums released in the January window. And obviously, Dire Straits are taking up all the air in the room. But the only new albums to come out were the Back to the Future, that I could find of any note, were Back to the Future original soundtrack, which went in at number 99, which I thought was pretty low.
When you say the original soundtrack, is that the actual music of the film, or is that the songs off the film?
It just says the original soundtrack.
So
I think it's the songs.
Okay, because it's got Johnny B.
so I think
Good and that sort of stuff.
Huey Lewis and Lewis in the news and everything.
Yeah.
So I thought it was quite low. But anyway, but then there was nothing really for about 3 weeks. Then 26th of January, the Rocky IV original soundtrack.
Good soundtrack.
That's an eclectic miss. It is a great soundtrack. I
has.
still listen to that to this day.
Yes, it's got the best of the training montage music on it. That one by and far the best version of the montage music, because they all have it, but that's the best version of it.
Which does mean, because obviously, just as a bit of a spoiler for next week, Rocky IV is out this month.
Well, of course it is,
and we will be discussing that.
Yes.
Because it needs to be discussed. So we will be talking about Rocky IV, the film, in next week's episode. But right now, here and now, here and now, the Rocky IV original soundtrack is in at number 48. So there you go. January is a pretty, it's a dryish month for music. Everything's just been released before Christmas. You've not got much coming out. Interesting bleak singles at number 1 with West End Girls and Sun Always Shines TV. Dire Straits back at the number up there, sort of thing. And we get our first taste of a bit of rap in the charts. The sounds of it. So there you go. That's your music section for January 1986. We'll be back in a moment with our last 4 games for this episode. So stay with us.
A big shout out to our sponsor, DavidHearnWriter.com, where you'll find bargain books and audiobooks. Dave's feature book is The Case of the Notorious Roboticist, set in a future where Gumshoe Morrows fights for equality in a society where androids are the norm and the lines between human and robot love are blurred. Audiobook available at Google Play, Apple Books, Audible, and other cool places. Visit DavidHearnWriter.com to find out more. Dave's podcast pick is Skooldaze, as he tries to outsmart Mr. Wacker.
Welcome back. That was the music. We've got our last 4 games of this episode that were reviewed that came out in January 1986. So let's move on to them. Our first game is another Odin Graphics, whatever they're called. Odin game.
Odin Computer Graphics Team.
Odin Computer Graphics Team. Thank you very much. OCG, not to be confused with OCP.
No, don't confuse them with that.
That would be bad, because we'd have RoboCop of the Wood. Which would be weird.
That'd be a game, wouldn't it?
It'd be really slow though. It wouldn't be fast.
Too slow.
It'd be way too slow going around all the screens. Anyway, so the game we're going to be talking about right now is Robin of the Wood by Odin Computer Graphics. Graham, do you want to tell us all about Robin of the Wood?
Yes, so Robin of the Wood is, as you can well imagine, a game based on Robin Hood. Robin Hood was a legendary, mythical robber of the rich and giver to the poor character from British mythology. Anyway, long and short of it is that your father is the keeper of a silver arrow and is killed by the dastardly sheriff of Nottingham, and they're getting the arrow stolen. So you've got the silver arrow has now been offered by the sheriff as a price for the classic archery contest to lure you into a trap. So the aim is to get the arrow back and avenge the death of your father. So all very classic Robin Hood tropes that we've seen a million times before. Mm-hmm. Yes. This is probably plot-wise more akin to the Errol Flynn Robin Hood a little bit. The kind of wearing the green hooded thing and all that. Well, maybe there's a hint of Robin Hood, the hooded man.
I actually thought it was also similar as well to the Disney version.
Yeah, there's a bit of that as well in there. So they're all about Robin Hood, aren't they, at the end of the day? There's things that are missing from this, which I'll talk about in a minute. But so you search Sherwood Forest, you get the magic arrows, they thwart the plans of the sheriff, do all of that. And inside of the woods, there are people to avoid and fight if you wished with your trusty quarterstaff, your buck and a quarterstaff, if you've watched the Daffy Duck version of Robin Hood. And that's the game. It's a big old maze, isn't it? Big old maze game. Wandering around. Felt a bit Saberwolfy in places, this. Graphically, lovely, though. Really pretty. Really nice graphic visuals in this. Really nice animation of the main sprite. Really nice. Really pretty visuals in a way that these kind of games generally aren't. So this is the C64 doing a version of those with 64 kind of colours and graphics. And by hell, it's good. Graphics are well animated. It's a bit sparse. There's not loads in it, but it's quite an intriguing game. One of those games where you need to make a map. This is another one of those Mapper's Delight type games that we've spoken about before. So for me, it was fast though. It was quite a fast old game. It's likeable and playable and interesting. It's just I think it benefits from not being continually bombarded with enemies. There could have perhaps been a few more in it, but it means that you are exploring and finding as opposed to just fighting continuously for no reason whatsoever. And so I found that quite interesting. But I think I got lost very quickly in the game, just wandering around lost in it. And the trouble is because there aren't a great variety of kind of backgrounds, they do start to look very similar. And within 2 minutes, I was completely lost. I thought I really should have perhaps made a map. I don't doubt that there probably is in an issue's time or something, the map of this, if it's not even in it. I don't think it's in this issue because they've got one for a different game. But I thought it was quite likeable graphically and in every way that, these kind of games should be done. It had everything in it. So I quite liked it. And I was playing it for a while. I got lost in it a little bit. But it was good. And the music's kind of twee, but not massively annoying. It gets away with it, I think. And there's some nice little touches here and there. So I think it felt a bit like it had a Palace-y vibe to it. I don't know why. It had that kind of pro polish that Palace games tend to have. A bit less resolution in the sprites, but that Robin animation of the main character was great. The running animation and the way he stops and the fighting, I liked it. I thought it was good. What about you?
I really like this. Full cards on the table. I played loads and loads and loads of this back when I was a lot younger, to the point where I think I actually completed it. So I knew it was kind of a bit strange sort of thing, because I started playing it again thinking, will it all come back sort of thing, but I instantly knew to go up top left to get to the castle. That's where the thingy was, and I found a druid and found the flower and found everything. So I was it all started to sort of, it was almost like sort of that map that I kind of almost made in my head back then was just started to fill back in again. And to me, this to me is a similar kind of game to something like, and not in the way it plays, but in the way it feels, to something like Mission AD. To me, this is one of those things where that jaunty, bouncy music never grates, never gets on your nerves, or doesn't for me, and just feels like an enjoyable thing to play around in and just run about and enjoy the visuals and enjoy the ambience, and then just, like you said, sort of thing, enjoy the ability to actually just be just to be in the game rather than being pestered. The enemies are pretty easy to take down. You just run up behind the guards and smack them around the head. With the thing, you've only got one attack. The hedgehogs are terrifying. They will take you down in moments, those hedgehogs.
They are tough old things, them hedgehogs, aren't they?
And you can't kill them as well, sort of thing. I quite like, you've just got to avoid them, but they will take your health down in seconds. There's loads to sort of find. There's weird little idiosyncratic characters like the druid, and people like that sort of thing wander about. There's the sheriff. Did you find the merchants?
No, I just wandered around. I saw the guard and the hedgehog. That's the only characters I came across.
Yeah, there's a druid who you can get to heal you if you've got the right flowers, and there's a witch as well, I think, or sort of not a witch, sort of some kind of sorceress or something. There's merchants that wander about who have got some guards with them, and if you take down the guards, you get some extra gold. There's stuff to find. There's extra lives. There's arrows and things to find. There's loads of stuff to actually find in it. It is very Saberwolf, but this is the C64 version of Saberwolf done right.
Yes.
And we'll be looking at next week. We'll be looking at the C64 version of Underworld as one of the games we'll be looking at. And Underworld, Nodes of Yesod, which is one of the things we didn't mention actually when we looked at Nodes of Yesod, but Nodes of Yesod owes itself to Underworld. This owes itself to Saberwolf. But whereas the C64 version of Saberwolf wasn't very good, this plays to the C64 strengths. It has good music, great presentation. It looks absolutely lovely. As you said, the animation on Robin and the way the guards bumble along, the way the merchants are drawn, everything's just looks the part. The woods are really nicely drawn. They do become a bit samey, as you say, but once you find the castle and everything else, that's kind of nicely, nice little bit of differentiation. It's just a fun sort of run around romp, and could have been. And when, like we said about Frankie, when you give the player a bit of time and space just to enjoy being in there. I like the fact when you stop Robin, you don't stop. He has a bit of a kneel. It's a bit weird.
Yeah,
but
he does. Yeah, he just chills out, doesn't he, on one knee?
Kneels
Takes
down.
a
It's
knee.
like, oh, yeah. And it's quite nice. As you said, yeah, another mapper's delight. And you've got to map your way around it. I thought this was better than Nodes of Yesod, if I'm perfectly honest. I preferred this to that. I think this is the best thing that Odin do, or have done so far, and I think I'm not sure if they actually do anything better. This, to me, is just a really enjoyable bounce along, run around. And like you said, it's really fast.
It is fast.
It's not drawing too much. I mean, the graphics and the background stuff, and it keeps it nice and sparse, but that allows it to keep the pace up. And so, no screen really outstays its welcome. You're just bounding around, finding stuff, working your way around, and it's just, I don't know, it's just one of those games that there's enough dopamine hit, I don't know why, that just twigs my brain in the right way.
Do you think it was perhaps missing some of the other characters from Robin Hood?
I can
your Friar
certainly see
Tucks
that.
and your Will Scarlets and some of the famous characters. What's he called? The one with the big tall guy, Little John.
Yeah,
and the little guy, what's he called? Big John.
And the medium-sized guy.
yeah. Oh, medium Tez.
Medium Tez. Why are they calling you Medium Tez? Because I'm so medium.
I'm just adequate at everything.
Absolutely, because I can contact the dead. Yeah, probably. There is some of that in there. I mean, it's Saberwolf slapped on some of the Robin Hood characters and mythos, and if you're gonna pick run around the woods and be a character that's running around the woods, Robin Hood's a good sort of call, I guess, to put that on. So would having other characters in there have done? I don't know, maybe. I don't know what you would have done with them.
No, just I thought they were missing. It is Robin of the Wood, not Robin and his merry men, I suppose. And I think they allied that, which makes it actually a little bit better, because these games get silly when they have, when the merry men get introduced. Even the films always get a bit silly when the merry men are introduced. So maybe that's why they avoided it. But just thought, every now and again, bumping into Will Scarlet was always an interesting character, especially if it was the version from Robin Hood, the TV show with the Clannad soundtrack, because that was, what's his name? The Cockney actor, I forget his name, very young.
This is good podcasting, isn't it? He's in Sexy Beast.
Yeah, that's the guy. That's him, yeah.
He does the Bet365 adverts now, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Here, when you bet safe. Ray Winston.
Ray Winston, yeah. That was a good impression of...
Well, it's what led me to his name,
like
so obviously the impression twigged my head.
So I think you could have put more characters in it. I don't know how they would have worked it into the story and stuff, but like you say, what's not to like about a game, Robin Hood game like this? It's good. It's good fun game to play.
It is.
Yeah.
92%. I would probably maybe, it probably is deserved. I think it's maybe a tad too high, but I think there's what got 78%? Skooldaze. Yeah, this is way better than 14% better than Skooldaze, put it that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is a really, really fun, really bright, and shows, again...
It's a sizzler.
Yeah. And shows, again, what the C64 can do, really, in competent hands.
Absolutely.
Like No to Yesod, they have a... Whoever's done the music for this, I don't know who the musician is. Do you know who the musician is?
Robin of the Wood, I don't. Not without looking it up.
But like Notes of Yesod, whoever's doing these tunes has a knack for doing short loops that don't become annoying.
Yeah, this one manages to pass the test a bit, doesn't it? So it's...
yeah.
But I think it's because it's got that kind of rolling melody, so it's not, it's just gentle in the background. Rolling melodies tend to be like that, so when it's a diddly, 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 when it's that kind of thing, it's kind of gentle in the ear. If they go for those kind of, if it's the first... Because I think... And also, remember, it's not something that's already in existence that's just been... They've taken the first 8 bars and just looped it. So whenever they do that, because that's something that you would have heard at some point, you'd have heard like the Turkish rondo by Mozart gets used a lot in games. So you get that, that diddle and then you get that. But if that's just the first 8 bars in looped, it's going to drive you potty. With this, you've not heard it before, so it's fresh, and it's not. I think I was watching a presentation from Eugene Jarvis, and he said one of the first rules of game audio is thou shalt do no annoying, and so this. Whoever does the music for this, whatever that person's name is.
Ironic, I know Mission AD is Fred Gray in it. It's Fred Gray in Mission AD. But just looking up a quick look up, same guy, programmer and artist, did Mission AD, as did Robin of the Wood.
No, there you go.
There you go. They clearly have a knack of doing things that I like.
Yes.
It was the people who did it. Just to give them their dues, Mark Dawson was the coder, and graphics by Stuart Fotheringham.
Yes. And both of those are also Goonies, you'd be pleased to know.
Hey, good old Goonies.
Those Goonies do stick together.
We do. That's probably why I like this stuff. We do the Goonie handshake.
That sounds positively disgusting. And weirdly, I'm getting a sort of a horror movie from the 80s vibe about the whole thing.
It includes bending your arm backwards.
No.
I didn't know they did that. I didn't know Robin of the Wood and Mission AD shared same people who made it. There you go.
Yes.
I've learned something new today.
I didn't know that. Yes, that's exactly it. And talented people they are, because both of those games are graphically very clever.
Yes.
And I think that they must have looked at the Saberwolf port in the Ultimate Play the Game kind of 64 games, and they must have looked at them and gone, do you know what? Why are they doing it like that? Just do it like this. Tickly-clackety-click on the old 64 keyboard and hey presto, Robin Hood, well animated.
Yeah.
I suspect it's the same people who went later down the line when we play the Sacred Armor of Antirad go, why is everyone doing these tiny little stickmen figures? Let's just put a massive full-grown naked man animated. So...
What?
What they do is Sacred Armor of Antirad. He's naked at the start of the game.
Yeah, he is, yes. Well, he's got a loincloth on, hasn't he?
I hope so, because otherwise his 8-bit schlong would be flapping about, and that's just unpleasant.
Otherwise, he's in need of some manscaping.
It would explain that kind of boo-wah, boo-wah, boo-wah sound as well. It was just covering up the sound of his slappy noise.
It'd be a slow whistling.
A whistling and just a faint clapping sound. Now, as he's running, it's kind of a... That's horrific and terrifying and ruining that game now.
Sacred Armor of Antiridon.
But we'll come to that much later down the line, of course.
We will do, yeah. So Robin of the Wood, we like Robin of the Wood. Very, very much so. So go play that because that's good fun. Same of which cannot be said for our next game.
No.
Which is Chimera.
Chimera.
Chimera. I think just for you to understand what we're doing, I'm going to ask you, Graham, at this point in something, please insert the speech.
Chimera. I'll do it, but I'm only doing it once. I'm not playing the various versions because I found it kind of put my teeth on edge. I was like, oh god, it's horrific.
Chimera. Chimera. So yes, our next game is Chimera. Chimera. Oh, Chimera. What can I say about Chimera? My first comment on Chimera that I noted down was that the instructions said that the first DOA sequence, or the destruction sequence, needs a spanner. I'm like, this, I'm a high-tech guy going to a ship in space and better find a spanner. Because if I've been sent on board a self-destructing spaceship without even a spanner, they've not prepared me very well. So... And also handy that they have a programmable self-destruct. I do like the title screen. I feel it needs a mention. Looks like, I'm not quite sure what it is. It's some guy with something on the strap of his back flying towards what is a pirate ship floating in space. When I think of spaceships, that's literal. I mean, that's really literal.
Yeah, yes. It is a little bit silly, isn't it, that?
Because you're not on a pirate ship in the game. It's just weird.
There's just so much... perspective error in that it's ironic.
It's just weird. I don't get it.
I think that's meant to be a jetpack on his back, but considering you don't play that character at all, that's quite interesting.
That's the shape of the thing in the game, isn't it?
I thought it was a robot.
Well, I thought that as well, sort of thing. But this begs questions, and these are the questions I had for this game. I'll put them. I didn't enjoy this. All right, I'll say that from the start. I didn't particularly enjoy Chimera. So what is Chimera? Chimera is Nightlaw, Batman, head over heels. You get the picture. It's an isometric, flick screen, isometric adventure thing. Come to that, this was only the second one we'd had on the C64 with that weirdly angled and Escher angled thing, Silu being the one before it. So at least Chimera does get the angles right. I'll give it that. What I didn't understand, so you go to the ship, there's a hostile ship, pirate ship by the looks of things, that has taken up orbital position above the Earth with its weapons armed. And so, in typical human fashion, we decide the only way to deal with it is to send someone on board to turn on the self-destruct sequence that we know is on board. Nobody actually says how we know. It's an alien spaceship. But anyway, you go on board. Now, in the screenshot, the thingy, you are a man in a spacesuit. But in game, you are some kind of robot-y type thing. I don't know. It's just a droid of some stuff stomping around. However, you have two stats, food and water. So I can only presume you are in that suit, which looks really uncomfortable.
Yes.
Hugely uncomfortable to be in there. The thing that would kill me most, more than the radiators that destroyed me quite often in this thing. So this is a suit that has been through the empty, harsh vacuum of space and can't stand being near a bloody radiator.
No.
Because if you stay too long near a radiator, it dehydrates you in seconds. It's like it must be emitting so much salt that it just like is just draining every bit of moisture from your body in moments. But luckily, you can wander around as a robot and find bread. Why is bread on an alien spaceship?
Yeah. And
Why?
surely you'd have to lift your visor to eat it, and don't. Just don't.
But this leads me down a whole thing about these aliens have learned how to make bread. So they've got a whole agricultural system going on back home. And how long have they been travelling? Because this bread would be mouldy by now.
Yes.
Unless it's come out of a freezer.
Space bread.
But unless it's come out of a freezer. But with the amount of radiators on board, it's pretty bloody warm.
Well, it just seems... I mean, that might be why they're making bread, because all that warmth would prove bread really quickly, wouldn't it? It'd double its size, all that dough.
This game makes no sense.
No, it doesn't, does it?
I ate some bread, drank some water, I found a computer. Anything else I did just led me to instantly die with a horrific scream.
Yeah.
Horrific bit of speech screaming. I just put a stupid game with no logic behind any of it. I'm sorry if you made this. I'm sorry, but I don't expect much in my game, sort of thing. But if I'm a robot, I shouldn't be killed by radiators, and I shouldn't eat bread.
Yes.
You might like it. I don't know. Did you?
No, I didn't. I thought maybe it's $3.95 price tag might give it some dues.
Bit
it
of
doesn't. Yeah. So it's that isometric game, and I've been very clear about how I feel about isometric games. I don't like them. And I think I figured out why the angle's kind of weird, because obviously it's medium res, this game, which means it's quite colourful-ish.
It is, yes.
But on the C64, medium res means that it's actually every pixel is kind of 2 pixels wide and 1 pixel high. So everything's rectangular. Now, if you want to experiment, get yourself a piece of graph paper and colour in some blocks in the horizontal and the vertical. And then colour in an exact 45-degree angle. And you'll see that that's at 45 degrees because it's one block, then another block upwards in an angle, and you go up like that. Now try doing it from the same axis in the corner there, but do it 2 pixels across, and then go up, and then 2 across, and you'll see what angle you get. And it is not quite 45 degrees, is it?
No.
And the problem with doing that is that I don't know if it's just me, but I found that meant that the angle you're kind of playing the game at meant that there was things in the way, so I couldn't see.
Oh, yeah, there's loads of things in the way, yeah.
Because, well, the thing is, if you imagine if the game was at 45 degrees isometric, you would actually be able to see from a higher viewpoint. So you'd see more of the things and the obstacles and things. Because it's kind of a bit flatter because of the resolution, I think things get in the way. So I couldn't see what I would kind of navigate around. I couldn't make my way around because it's kind of a maze, but there was things I couldn't quite tell what they were. And like you say, there were some rooms that changed colour. I think you have to build a bomb at some point and blow things up in there. And you've got to do that to activate some kind of warheads or something. Anyway, long and the short it was, that's by the by, because I was killed repeatedly by radiators and by trying to use the wrong tool with the wrong thing. And it's not forgiving. It's not that you have lives. Once you're dead, you're dead.
Yeah.
Do you know what? We had this with Willy Wobbler, didn't we? William Wobbler, with this one-hit death thing.
Willy Wobbler.
Yeah.
We're back to a 6-hour Terry Dong.
But with those games, with one-hit death games, you know what? They're not fun. And
no,
there's
really
no save. I mean, and the thing is, this has actually got a good Rob Hubbard soundtrack. So the one saving grace for this game is that the Hubbard soundtrack is great. Yeah, I really like the Chimera soundtrack.
It is a good piece of music, yeah.
Everything else, including that god-awful speech, is awful. I don't like the isometric angle because it blocked my view. I found it colourless, and I also noticed that it had that awful trappings of isometric games on the Commodore 64. When there's nothing happening, it's nice and speedy. Put something in there that moves or animates, and it all starts to go through treacle. Mm-hmm. And I hate games that do that. It's one of my pet hates, which is why I hate the game Head Over Heels, but we'll come to that later down the line.
And don't even get me started on Fairlight.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Fairlight and those games, when as soon as the action gets heavy on a C64, when it's isometric and in this kind of resolution, even in medium res on this one, just slows down. And that's potentially down to the way that you'd have to code something that's, I don't know the ins and outs of it. So it didn't hold my interest. I just found it was wandering around a blocky maze with my view obfuscated periodically by a weird jaunty angle, bizarre colour schemes that didn't mean anything, and I got killed by a radiator in a spacesuit or a robot. I thought it was a robot. I didn't quite understand why I needed water and food, but I guess maybe that explains it, but none of it made sense. So it was $3.95 I would never have spent. Funny enough, I listened to the music, but I never played the game. I had dabbled with it way back then. I think I borrowed it off somebody or from J&M Software or something. I had played it before, but I remember it was one of those, load it, play it for a few minutes, get frustrated and go, So, yep. And I just remember thinking, right, I'm going to listen to the music then, because that was about the best thing about it. And, there's a few games where I did that. This was one of them. So, no Chimera. Chimera off for me. And that stupid speech just... there's a few of these where it's thrown in for no good reason. The way the Exploding Fist may have set a benchmark for introducing your game with some kind of loud, obnoxious sound. But there's no reason to scream Chimera at me. I was like, and then do it again as soon as you press play to start the game. Chimera! I was like, I know I'm playing Chimera, just it's shrill and annoying. Shut up. Leave me alone.
It says Chimera on the screen.
Voice.
I can read.
Yeah, I read the box. It said Chimera on that. I don't need it, shouting at me.
Every time. There'll be another game we'll look at next week that is even more egregious with its speech.
Yes, there is. But
we'll come to that, which is another cheapie. But
yeah, I mean, I'm not knocking the price.
Speech.
If you like isometric games for $3.95, it might keep your interest, but I doubt it. But it's worth buying. It's worth downloading the SID file if you're a fan of the old SID chip. And listen to the old Hubbard soundtrack for Chimera because it's one of his better ones of that time. So
indeed, I'll may probably tweet it at some point, maybe.
Yes,
that bit of music is quite good.
It's a good one. It is a good one.
So there you go. No, we don't like Chimera, or we don't like
Chimera.
No more Chimera.
No.
Right, so let's move on. To our next game. Right, so if you've listened to our awards episode, you will know that this game won Crapvert of the Year. And for that, it will forever live in ignominy. That game is Metabolis, the Birdman game, with the head of a bird and the bird of a whatever. I don't know.
Yes.
The brain of a man. The brain of a man trapped in the body of a bird, except on the advert, it was the body of a man with the head of a bird.
Yes.
And too much bird bulge.
Wrong. Yes, they got it all wrong.
It's all horribly wrong.
Those evil Kremlins.
The evil Kremlin. So this game is obviously Metabolis. I don't know. Does that even make any... What the hell is Metabolis anyway? Is it metabolism? It doesn't even mean anything. Metabolis is the game. And so, go on, have at it.
The land has been invaded by the evil Kremlins. And they magically turn all your friends and family into lesser beings, remember. The lesser beings being mice and birds. Of mice and birds. George and mice and birds. That's the whole alternate version. Where George got turned into a seagull-headed creature. He didn't mean, he just pecked people to death. Anyway, so you are the aforementioned man-bird. It doesn't really matter. It's not going to help this game.
No. Essentially, you play a budgie.
Yeah, you are bird, man-bird. You have to defeat the Kremlins and break this evil spell.
When the Kremlins, the characters from the Kenny Everett animated thing. Were they Kremlins?
Possibly.
I seem to remember them. Anyway, go on, sorry.
So it's okay. So you're basically wandering around a sort of multi-screen world looking for the magic potion that turns you back into a human. Before you do that, you've got to collect, bizarrely, 4 pieces of some nuclear fuel to place in a reactor room to blow up the domain to help a wizard to break the Kremlin spell as well as find the potion. Just randomly. Just because finding the potion wasn't hard enough, you see, so they had to throw that in. So you're the Birdman, so guess what? You can fly around, and you fly around the screens, encountering different kind of creatures. You kind of get where this is going. So you can find like his deadly boomerang.
Could you say that with any more vitriol and like and just sheer exasperation? A deadly boomerang.
Well, the thing is, right? Because this game is, as you can tell by my description. So you're flying around trying to solve, not only find a potion, but also help the wizard to blow up the reactor room to destroy the spell. You've also got to find your boomerang and use that to kill. And there's enemies all over that drain your energy, but you can find energy pills to keep you alive. But there's different kinds of energy pills, and you can rest if you want. But and it's just, this game is a weird mishmash of so many bits of other game ideas thrown into this kind of melting pot, and none of them the good ideas. So they're just kind of so they just went. So there's, when you play the game, there's bits of Attic Attack in there, because at one point it looked to me like they'd almost robbed the chicken graphic from Attic Attack and put it in there. So there's a bit of Attic Attack. There's bits of notes of Yesod in there, the kind of weird look and feel of it, the way you kind of go around. There's just these bits of other games.
Bits of
I'm not doing any. Yes, there's just bits of all of them. There's no. If you take the last sort of 10 average underworldy ultimate type games and get all the crappiest bits of those, throw them into a story that makes so little sense, it's beyond belief. Birdman, man, bird, spell, Kremlin, it doesn't matter. you're wandering around trying to collect stuff, but there's seemingly stuff that has no real meaning or point. And so you end up with this weird, non-playable game where you're just flapping around and walking about and picking up chickens, and it's just stupid. And then the playability is kind of weird, and the graphics are kind of colourful. It's the best I could say. It's just weird. It's a weird idea for a game with a really weird central premise, with so much borrowed, crappy gameplay that none of it makes sense, and a central idea that's just kind of, I think it must have just been, they got all the different, it's a bit like a David Bowie album when he did lyrics. I think it's just like a cut-up technique. They just picked random things out of different games. I don't get it. So it's my final point on this was that this is a classic game designed by committee. And the famous thing is that a camel is a horse designed by committee. Right. And this is a perfect example of that. This has got so many ideas from so many people throwing it. I'll tell you what, mate. You know what, make him a bird man. No, he should be a man bird. All right, make him both. It's just so many stupid ideas in there. What about the Kremlins? They've cast a spell on them. Well, they've turned everyone to chickens. Well, make them right. I don't know. There's just so many. Clearly, this one person sat there with all these influences around him and thought, you know what? I'm going to put everything into this game. All of your ideas are so cool, I can't pick just one. And what you end up with is this Metabolis, which is just a melting pot of stupidity formed into a game, which then affronts you with the boomerang throwing Birdman. And you think, at what point when you were making this game did you just not go, hang on a minute, this makes no sense. Why have I got a Birdman throwing a boomerang and picking up chickens? Why?
Why am I throwing it?
Well, yeah, because if you try and apply any kind of logic to this game at all, you'll find that it's a bit like unraveling some kind of equation, and that can be a dangerous thing. I mean, look what happened with Einstein. He figured out black holes and space-time travel and all that, and then in the end it ended up being a massive bomb which blew up and killed loads of people. So don't try and figure out the logic of Metabolis. It could have earth-shattering, disaster-like capabilities. Just accept that there's a man-birdman who can throw a boomerang with what? I don't know. I'm guessing with his bulge. So he emits boomerangs from his bird bulge, man bulge, whatever that might be in there. We don't want to know. And for some reason, you've got to find a potion to change you back. But also, for some reason, that doesn't just do it. You've got to help the wizard blow up a nuclear reactor. It still baffles me why that, but there you go. Anyway,
why would you combine it? Since when do wizards muck around with nuclear reactors? Those two things, like science and wizardry, don't go together.
And why didn't the Kremlins change in? Because he's still a wizard. He's not neither a mouse or a man or whatever they changed him to.
Who knows?
Birds or a mouse. He's a wizard. So anyway, so that's Metabolis. He got exactly 50% in Zap, which is way too much.
Way too much. My thought. To be fair, it's not far from what you said, just a bit more concise, I think. I put Jesus and we thought the advert was bad. I put flick screen absurdathon.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Flap and walk whilst pursued by random nonsense. The graphics are a portmanteau of stupid absurdity and the screens make little sense. The tone is all over the place. Rubbish.
Yeah, I could have said it like that. I could have said that.
That's all I wrote because there was nothing more I needed to write. From one moment, you'll be going the screen edges and the graphics on the screen will be like something. Then you'll be like, sometimes it's 2D and like you're on platforms, and then other times it's kind of like Robin of the Wood style.
Yeah.
And then sometimes like the graphics around the edge are like just random colours, and then sometimes they've got like containers with missiles in.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, what the hell am I playing? At what point? I don't know. It's the weirdest thing.
That's that logic thing. Yeah, it is. It's just weird. It's just out and out. I mean, we said it about the advert right from the get-go. We said this. It's just weird.
Yeah,
and
we were right.
It just didn't stop, did it? It didn't stop. The weirdness didn't stop. I have a feeling, and it's just a feeling that at some point there may have been mushrooms of some description involved with the making of this particular game, either in the marketing department or in the development, or possibly both, because there is no way that this idea could be pushed past a executive unless they were completely off their head, because I imagine actually that there's probably a way of playing this game if you're into that kind of thing where it makes sense, and that's probably the realm.
Fred Gray did the music, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, he would never have played that game, I don't think. If he saw Metabolis, he'd said, well, I'll tell you what, instead of using a piano, I'm going to just hit chickens with a stick and record the squawks, and I'm going to make that into the music because it makes sense that way.
This was made by Pedigree Software, and according to Lemon64, it is the only game by Pedigree Software.
Well, that explains a great... Well, I'm not surprised.
Because they've got every game in it. They've just made every game, and it's all... None of them are good.
No,
it's bad. It's a bad game. It's one of the most confusing things I've come across.
It's Metabolis is what it is.
Yeah. There we go. That'll do. That'll do, pig. That'll do.
That'll do, pig. That'll do.
Let's move on. To our final game for this week. That game is Mad. It's a Mad game. What's that? Mastertronics Added Dimension? Is that what it stood for?
That's it. That's correct.
It's the first of 2 that they released that we'll be looking at. We'll look at the other one next week. This one is Hero of the Golden Talisman. Would have cost you £2.99 of your shiny coins. Zapped gave it 78%. What did we think? Let's have a look. What did we think? What did I think? My first comment is, I'm in the water again.
Mine was, I dived. I got stuck.
So I was in the water again. Let's get something out of the way first. I do remember this game. I do remember playing at the time. Sean Southern game.
Yes, it is.
It's a Sean Southern game, which I wasn't aware. So Sean Southern, Kickstart 2, Cosmic Causeway. So this time he's done a rather large flick screen arcade adventure. Similar visual style-ish to main character. Although not really, but echoes of Impossible Mission with that main character looks a bit similar. Don't run the same, not quite as good. I try and be nice about this. But I'm in the water again. I just spent so much time in the bloody water. And now there are issues. This game has issues. It's quite unusual. And once you do get past it and you kind of understand it, you have that problem again, sort of thing, where the jumping seems way too bouncy and not quite as responsive enough. The gaps are too big. Everything's just a bit too awkward. You've got to be real close. And then, it's that diagonal jump. So pushing top right to jump, which not always works. You're being bothered by random creatures that just come flapping on. I don't know what they were. Were they butterflies? Are they piranhas in the water? I don't know what they were. There was some stuff. Essentially what this is sort of thing is you are the hero of the Golden Talisman. The Golden Talisman is something that's kept some city safe. But unfortunately, it's been split into 5 parts, and you've been tasked with going to recover these 5 parts of the Golden Talisman. And they're in this big old labyrinth of screen, which you have to navigate, puzzle your way through. It's a big old game. There's like 512 screens or something. There's lots of screens, going up and down, swimming around. You can only... And I had issues with it because you spend so much time in the bloody water swimming, and the only way to get out of the water is to jump onto a chain, which is higher from the water than the edges of the platforms. Why can't you just climb out?
Yes, why not? Indeed.
You can reach the chain, but you can't reach... It sounds like I'm going to the toilet. You can reach the chain, but you can't reach the edge.
I thought you were doing a Fleetwood Mac song.
That's the Doom. You can reach the chain.
You can never reach the chain.
But I can reach the edge. Oh, Lindsay Buckingham. Maybe Lindsay Buckingham is the main character in this. That would make it a whole thing. Lindsay Buckingham is the hero of the Golden Talisman.
Yes, it was the Fleetwood Mac game.
I did put, you move around. Your main character seems a little arthritic, is what I noted.
It's a bit choppy, isn't it?
It's a bit choppy. His animation's not that great. There's a lot of game here. Don't get me wrong. It's a Sean Southern game, so there's a lot of stuff here. But it's just so awkward to navigate. And you just spend so much time. You miss a jump, you're in the water again. You've got to fly around. You've got to swim up. You've got to get back on the chain, jump off, try the jump again. There's things flapping around. I like the fact you have plenty of health and the things don't really bother you that much. You don't lose that much health. It's the navigation that is the real problem. But for $2.99, I imagine if you bought this at the time, you'd probably persevere and get on with it, sort of thing. But playing it in the here and now, it's just too awkward to control. I found it very frustrating very quickly. I opened up a causeway. I opened up a portcullis that led me to. I found a dragon. Did you find a dragon?
No.
was a dragon which I was like trying to shoot, but I don't know. You had to jump and shoot it, sort of thing, and it wasn't dying. So I just went on, and then I moved and fell in the water again. And I was like, I'm in water again. Yeah. It should be called Hero of the Golden Armbands. The amount of time I'm in the bloody water.
So true. Bloody true. Yeah.
Did you find it similar? Did you?
Yeah, it's exactly the same story. I ran about, fell in the water really more than dived, I suppose.
Yeah, you do, don't you?
Okay, underwatery game, Okay, I could do that. Couldn't get out of the water for love nor money. I tried, swam around. Graphics were good. Swam around some more. I felt like there was loads to do, but I was kind of stuck underwater going, probably loads. I bet this game's massive, but I'm kind of stuck in the swimming pool end.
You just jumped to the chain.
Yeah, I tried just moving about, and I find it tiresome. It was just, I knew it was going to be tiresome. It just didn't feel very slick. There's clunky little bits around the edges. There are some nice touches. There's sort of the way the display map worked on the screen was quite nice, and because that sort of it showed you areas of the map you hadn't been in, and that was quite. There's some nice little touches here and there, but. And it's 512 screens, this game, so it's not. I think it's a whopper, isn't it? You're gonna need a bigger map for this. Just you're already mapping Robin of the Wood. Now you got another one to map.
You're gonna need more paper, like A3 bit of paper you nicked from the art college.
For £3, it's all right, I suppose. If you like these kind of explorathon graphic adventures, mega screen, multi-screen things, and you want for £3, that's a lot of exploration and stuff. And you better like diving and swimming because there's a lot of that in this. But for me, it was just, it was. Can we
mention the loading screen?
Yes, I think you probably should mention the loading screen.
Because the loading screen, that don't look like the game I played.
No, that is very sort of cartoon Batman. It's almost, isn't it?
Yeah. So it says Hero of the Golden Talisman. There's a mix of fonts, so let's not go on there sort of thing. But our main character is in a suit. He's what looks like stood in some lava. And he's punching another character, and there's a pow and an R, and he's going, "Wise guy, eh?" And I have to say it in that voice because he's going to be in that voice, isn't it? He's going to be in a.
His hat's flying off, isn't it?
His hat's flying off, but you were shooting what looked like butterflies to me.
And it looks like he's punched the glaive out of his hand, so he was obviously stealing the glaive from Krull. And he actually finds the glaive from Krull in a burning pit of lava, so it all adds up. It's all part of the plan.
Ah, that does make sense now. So
that's right.
The golden talisman is actually the glaive.
Oh, it looks like it there.
It's missing a fork, missing a spoke.
Yes, it's
only got 5 spokes,
it's an early version
spokes.
of the glaive.
it's the glove. or as we call it, the glove.
The glove, yeah, it's the glove. It's the old 4-pronged glaive. It was never going to beat the beast, but it was quite handy in a battle. But he's lost it in that fiery pit.
Oh,
so yeah,
it's
a weird. There's no, like you said, but that shouts kind of James Bond, Man with a Golden Gun kind of game.
Yeah, it does.
Which this ain't. And is this kind of trying to be a kind of Bond-ish type adventure? Is that the plan of it? Because I suppose
I don't think so. It's fantasy-ish. It's set in some kind of weird fantasy world, according to what I read. It's some ancient city protected by the Golden Talisman. I don't remember that being the plot of Octopussy.
But there's lots of collecty bits in there in the game, and there's loads of games like this, and this one is just map-wise, exponentially bigger with more watery bits. So.
Just if you're going to play this sort of thing, you're going to have to perfect that jump. That's the word of warning I'll give to you. It's not terrible. I mean, it's a Sean Southern game, so it's not terrible. It's just a bit dull, and you will find yourself swimming a lot.
For £3, that explains it's 78% in Zap. I think. I sometimes think they lean a bit that way. This would, if you took the price tag off and made this $9.99, that'd be in the 50s. I think. I
think so. Yeah. In fact, like I said, I do remember playing this at the time and not being too bothered about it. I think it was okay, but I think I had this on some like copy tape or something. I don't think I spent £3 in it. If I'd have bought this £3. I think I actually bought the game we're going to look at next week, sort of thing, in place of this because they came out at the same time. Maybe I should have bought this instead. Don't know. Anyway, who knows? So that's Hero of the Golden Talisman. If if it's just another one, it's another one. So there you go. That's our games for this week. What have we looked at? Coronis Rift, Goonies, Fighting Warrior, Skooldaze, Robin of the Wood, Chimera, Metabolis, A Hero of the Golden Talisman. So that's what we've looked at. And obviously the music from January 1986. If we're going to shove a couple of games in, we've not done this for a while, actually. We should get back into doing this. Be a bit more thorough. You want to shove a game into our You Should playlist?
Robin of the Wood. Yeah.
I would echo that. I'd probably shove in Coronis Rift as well. The two biggies.
Yeah.
Coronis Rift, you might get along with it. It's basically what we said about it. And Robin of the Wood is definitely worth a play because it's very good. Those are our two.
Metabolis goes on the bonfire.
Oh, Metabolis. Jesus Christ. That and,
Skooldaze.
It's just weird. Okay, so before we go, we've got our usual look at some Crapverts. We've got 3 Crapverts to look at here.
What?
You don't look at these until we get to this bit, do you?
I like the freshness of just seeing them for the first time.
So
I'm glad, because that is astonishing. What a selection.
So this is the Commodore 64, available soon. No, I think it's already out. This is Argonautica.
Which is not what the logo says, by the way.
Is it not? Oh, is it, or,
it looks like it says Argonautica.
Well, I think it's one of those where they can't have curves, so I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. And then down the side is Jason. I think it's Jason and the Golden Fleece, but they ran out of space. they just there's some. Jason is downwards, and there is horizontal. So Jason is vertical, and there is horizontal. And then Golden is under Jason vertically, and Fleece is next to it vertically. It's just a horrible mishmash of placing words, and obviously ran out of space.
Yes.
So
it can't decide whether the Jason is Greek or Roman either. Looking at that, so it just doesn't matter. Right? It's all kind of Greeky Romany stuff. What does it matter?
That is a Roman helmet, isn't it?
That's a Roman centurion helmet. Yes.
Yes, that's what I thought.
In fact, that's kind of like a equivalent of a kind of a legionnaire. So the boss man of 100 soldiers would wear that.
Yeah, and is that a Roman sort of skirt as well?
That is very much possibly. It's not called skirts, but yes, essentially it is a Roman. It's got an official Latin name. It's called a skirtus.
Skirtius. Yeah. The Latin. So, I see you're wearing your Skirtus Skirtius.
Skirtus Skirtius, yes. So yes, what he isn't is looking very Greek.
No, he's wearing his helmet.
He's pasty for a Greek guy, isn't he? He's a bit white. He hasn't been out in Greece very long.
He's not. No, he needs a bit of a vitamin D.
He does, yeah. And I presume he's already got the golden fleece, because that kind of defeats the purpose of the game. If the idea of the game is to get that, he's already got it in the opening picture there. So
he does. Yeah.
Argonautica makes no sense. Is it? Why don't they just call it Jason and the Golden Fleece? Why this Argonautica nonsense?
Yeah, because I don't know where Argonautica comes from, because the boat is called the Argo, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's not Argo. So Nautica is some kind of nautical. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
It's not even the name of the boat. The boat is called.
At least it features large colour sprites.
It does. Highly detailed graphics and gameplay. I like detailed gameplay. I do like detailed gameplay.
Yes. Oh, you should always have that. And I've always liked arcade adventures from ancient Greece.
I wouldn't have them from
they didn't find it there.
I wouldn't have them from anywhere else.
No.
Someone's nipped back in time.
Just co-opting, Roman, Greek myths. It doesn't matter. But what's annoying is that the source material that sits behind that is such good stuff for a game.
I mean, it might be a good game. You can tell it's going to be good because you have to send off for it.
Exactly, because they did it. There was the game that wasn't a gift from the gods, which was a Spectrum game, which was actually quite good, even though it was a kind of wander around, collect stuff kind of game. It's quite a nice little game. I think that a Denton game, I think, as well, or something to do with them. Anyway, so it will be nothing like that. I'll be interested to see if we come across this on our journey. I will. I'm not holding out much hope for it, though.
No.
But there's such great source material in the Greek myths to make games. And later down the line, of course, we've got Myth, which is a game about that kind of thing, and that's actually really, really good. I was going to
go a lot later and say God of War.
Yeah, when you get way down the line, and, of course. So, if this is like an early version of God of War, 8-bit God of War, I bet it isn't.
No, of course it's not.
No.
God of War.
That's no Kratos, is it, that?
No, it's JSOS. Jason.
Yeah, well, he's not.
Jason. The thing is, as well, I never found Jason a particularly interesting hero. I always found him a bit cool.
I like the fact that they've not gone so muscular this time.
That is good. Yeah, they've not gone like Knockout and Amazon Warrior.
No, he's just kind of no, absolutely. He's got kind of that. He's been working out with a bench there because he's got some pecs going on and a little bit of ab. But he's got skinny legs. He's been missing his leg days, that guy, without a doubt. And his arms are quite flimsy, floppy as well, although he is holding up an entire golden fleece with one arm. So don't ever mess with his left arm. For goodness sake, that guy could literally rip your legs off, because that's heavy. And that's the 2 or 3 kilos of, maybe more, sort of 20, 30 kilos of gold on his arm there. That's heavy.
Yeah.
It's a very heavy element, though.
It's a strange old advert. I don't like that.
Yes.
The sky and the sea are a bit like,
He's on a pier, isn't he? One admire his golden helmet.
He's on the boat. He's on the
boat, is he? Oh, of course he is, yeah. There's no crew. Oh, it doesn't matter at this point.
I don't know. Who cares? Let's move on.
No, moving on.
This is a strange one.
What is that? Do you know, it's quite a well-drawn night, isn't it?
He's very well. Our next one is the Evil Crown. I couldn't find where this was actually coming out on, so I don't know if it's Spectrum or something, but it's the Evil Crown. And the reason I picked this sort of thing is because someone's gone mad with the airbrush.
Oh, haven't they just? They've shaded the hell out of that.
Yeah, that's a heavily shaded night. I mean, it was pretty well drawn sort of thing, but good Lord.
Where is the light source coming from?
Everywhere.
It's just got. This light
everywhere.
sort of flashes on his suit of armor, which, by the way, is dull yet shiny, which is kind of strange.
Yep.
Which means that light must be so bright that it's reflecting off a dull suit of armor. So it must be like a 7 million powered candlelight. Burning, so there's a supernova occurring right in front of him, which is lighting up his dark matter armor there. He's even got like a metal skirt on that, which is weird. So I don't know what you call this. It's quite nice. It reminds me of how a level 3 student would draw a knight.
One of the reasons I picked it sort of thing is, do you remember, I think it was Central TV? Mm-hmm. And is that not their logo on his shield?
It is a bit centrally.
I'm sure that was Central.
Or Big Brother.
The eye. It was that weird sort of. I'm sure it was Central TV had that kind of like interlocking eyeball logo, and so I was like looking at it going. And remember, was it Central TV who said they love Tim Loves Cricket? I'm wondering whether this is.
They're involved. I quite like that top image. As much as that knight is
terrible.
Very head on and stuff, but I like the background. I like the fact that it's. It isn't running away from geometric shapes or something really stupid. There's actually a battle going on behind him, albeit that he is quite away from it, so he's clearly just legged it.
He's clearly legged it, sort of thing, and the background is going on, in some kind of red haze. It's a bit. It reminded me of the Excalibur when that sort of the fight at the end of that. Yes,
it's got that awful rear projection moment in Excalibur. Don't want to think about that, but you get that great image at the top, and it is quite good. Albeit the lighting's weird. And then you get to the logo and it all goes horribly wrong. It's an Evil Dead style font, for want of a description, with a really weird crown. It's almost like it's if this game was kind of a variation of a Wicker Man type game. So a weird cultish type game. You'd have a font like that and a weird symbol in it. So what that all equates to, I don't know. How that equates to a knight running away from a battle with the Central TV logo on his shield, I don't know, but I'm guessing it's and it says it's in feudal England. Well, I can tell you now, knights didn't wear that kind of armor in feudal England in that era.
No, there seemed a bit of a mix of people in the background of sort of armor styles, this sort of Anglo-Saxon type helmet sort of thing, and this big old suit of plate armor. It's a bit mixed but yeah. So this is some kind of like, I don't particularly like the actual premise of the game seems a bit, bit mean. You basically do, in these days, you are not elected to anything. What you want, you take. Do unto others before they do. Do it unto you is the motto which you as Baron, that's who you are, live by. The path to success is an easy one to travel. Total self-interest is all that is required. Starve the peasants, amass a personal fortune, and overthrow the king. The killing of a few opponents in the jousting tournament can only enhance your notoriety. One more thing you should know. If you try and fail in your quest for the Evil Crown, you will be executed for treason. Fair enough. I don't know.
I like the way it says, The Evil Crown, an icon-driven animated simulation game. I'm like, oh. I thought that image doesn't shout icon-driven simulation game at me. It shouts kind of fighting fantasy anyway. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's it, really.
And it does say it's for the Commodore 64 Spectrum, so there you go.
Yes, it does.
Okay, our last one. It's not a terrible one. I will say this, okay, as we're doing these crapverts, the adverts are getting better, okay. But there are certain elements to certain ones, some sort of thing that I do like to pull out. So this is the advert for CRL Blade Runner. And so the reason I picked this sort of thing is just the angriness. The angriness of these characters. That bottom right one. And his eye looks weird.
Yes, there's some anger in there, isn't there? He is very, very angry at that. Do you find the premise of the subtitle on this a bit odd? A video game interpretation of the film score by Vangelis.
That seems to me that's all they could get the rights to.
So he's just pissed off with that guy because he's playing the wrong track on the CD player in the car. So he's took him out and just booted him into the mud. Never play track 4 on my CD player. Told you before. Get out. Weird way of licensing a game is to license its soundtrack.
It is very much a sort of thing. But yeah, it's just, I just like, that doesn't scream Blade Runner to me, from what I remember of the film. I mean, I don't know who he's supposed to be, Is he pointing somewhere? Is he pointing a gun at him and he's pointing off to the left? It's just a weird, bit of a mishmash. I suppose that's one of the flying cars, isn't it? But
Yes, it is
of
one
all
of
the
those.
things you could have done from Blade Runner sort of thing, which is like the neon tech noir like landscapes and everything you could have probably done, which would have probably sold you the idea of Blade Runner more, having one angry man shout at another angry man while pointing a gun at him.
Well, yeah, he's meant to be
Doesn't
Deckard,
scream-
isn't he? There is a hint of Harrison Ford in that character holding the gun. A little hint, I think.
You reckon? But, okay, so who's the
Just
one?
a little
Is that
bit.
supposed to be Roy Batty?
Roy Batty, yeah, probably. Well, I'm guessing Roy Batty, because there's only a few actual
Well, it's not
Nexus. It's definitely not Leon, and it ain't Zora.
No, and it's not Pris.
Or Pris. So I'm guessing it's Roy Batty, which is a bit disappointing because.
But it can't actually be
Roy
any of
Batty
them because
doesn't
that
like
would actually be taking something from the film that's not in the score. So it's probably Toy Catty
Bobby Batty.
being choiced by Beckard.
Yeah, it will be a very, it's a simile, isn't it? But they're all copies and clones of each other, aren't they? He's wearing Roy Batty's coat, so
I
it might
reckon
be him.
I reckon he's just nicked that.
Yeah, he's probably just stolen it. Yeah, there is,
probably. It's
but
not. I don't know.
That secret that never happens in the film. There's not a moment when Deckard gets cross with Roy Batty, kicks him out of his car, and threatens him with a gun. I don't remember that.
No.
That must be in the director's cut that I haven't seen.
Yeah, it was the angriness of them that got me. And as you said, the video game interpretation of the film score by Vangelis sounds
Weird.
It is very strange. There you go.
CRL though, CRL had a bit of a potted history of doing odd games, didn't they? Odd game licenses. So
I think so. Yeah. Off the top of my head, I can't think of another game that CRL did. I probably
that's because they're not pressing. But if you looked at it, you'd find that CRL. I think they did some of the horror games, didn't they? Like Dracula and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah, probably inspired by the music from the from something.
By the music
or other.
he heard on the bus over somebody else's Walkman.
Probably. There we go. There's our Crapverts. They are getting harder to find. These Crapverts adverts are getting better. So, but next,
Not much better looking at that thing.
Well, next week we've got some treats. Don't look yet. Don't look.
No, I'm not.
Right. Okay. So there's our episode. That's it. We've looked at those games. We've picked our favourites. We'll be back next week where we will be continuing our look at the games from January 1986. What have we got to look forward to? We've got games like Ball Blazer. We've got games like Imhotep, Thunderbirds. We've got games like Willow Pattern and the last V8, which must return to base immediately. Amongst a few others as well. We'll also be looking at TV and film from January 1986, which will include, obviously, Rocky IV. So there you go. That's this episode of Zapped to the Past. I've been Adrian Mills.
I have been Birdman Raddings.
And just before we go, actually, just to sort of say, we very rarely actually ever do this sort of thing, but where can we find us? We can find us. You find us on Twitter at ZappedToThe. We're always posting stuff on there, whether it's just clips or just stuff or just tweeting. Or if you want to message us, you can get us there. You can find us on Facebook. Our page is Zapped to the Past, or you can find the group, which is Zapped to the Past. Come and like us and join us, and that'd be quite nice. And if you've got anything to say in any of the episodes or anything we've said or done, you can message us there. That's always grand, and we'll happy to have a chat. You can find us on Instagram at ZappedToThePast. You can find our website, which is zappedtothepast.com, where you can find all the Crapverts and all the previous issues, episodes, and anything else we feel like sharing up there. And finally, you can contact us. You can email us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. Loads of ways to get in contact, loads of ways to get in touch. Find us, tell us we were wrong, tell us we were right. Whether you remember stuff differently, it's all up to you. But those are how you can get hold of us. So on that note, I think we will say adieu. Adieu? No, adieu. Adieu.
You could say
Adieu.
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 Adieu. To you and you and you.
So long, farewell.
Indeed. So anyway, I'll say goodbye. It's probably easier.
Ta-ta.
Bye-bye.
Do Svidania. Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, sights, sounds and news from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at the time. We will be back next week with another podcast, so do please join us. Until then, please head over to zappedtothepast.com to sign up to our email list as well as check out all the links and resources in the show notes. You will also find us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram under Zapped to the Past. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe and see you next time.